Call this meeting order, please. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Faircloth McCormick.
Present.
Councilman Maldonado.
Here.
Councilman Shelley.
Here.
Vice Mayor Burgess.
Here. You called everybody? Yeah.
Councilwoman Warman.
Additions, deletions, deferrals? None. I'm going to take just one quick minute and go out of order here, and not to give you guys, FDOT guys, a bad feeling, but we've got one item that we had a very lengthy discussion on and several meetings about that I think will only take a minute, and they're also sitting here. So if we go, just in case your discussion goes over, I'd like to move to tab 3 to start the meeting, please. And is there a motion?
I move it.
Second? Okay. Staff report on tab 3, please.
On May 16, 2012, the Mayor Council selected McGladrey LLP as the internal auditor for the city. Attached master service agreement outlines the professional service and assistance they will provide to the city. Initial scope of work is outlined in the attached statement of work for a total cost of $91,750. There's $992,585 available in the fiscal year 2012 budget, and additional funding will be proposed in the fiscal year 2013 for internal auditing services. Staff's recommendation, Mayor and Council approve the tax resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into an agreement with McGladrey LLP to provide internal auditing services to the city of Homestead.
Thank you. Any comments? I would just like to say, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Go ahead. No.
No, I'm just excited to see this on the agenda. In fact, a couple of days ago, I was wondering where we were in the process as far as bringing you all on board. And for clarification purposes, I had a conversation with Mr. Carlos Perez because I was like, wait a minute, we have more money in our budget for internal audit services, but from what I understand...
No,
but this is all good. So our fiscal year ends September 30th, and the money that we have currently in our budget, if it is not used, it will be encumbered and added to next year's fiscal year budget. Am I correct?
That's correct.
That's correct. Okay, perfect. So we do have extra funds, so potentially the scope of services will increase, which is a good thing. Okay?
Thank you. No, I just want to say I was very impressed when you guys were down for the workshop that we had in the presentations, and I look forward to working with you, and I know that you're going to bring some expertise and some good things for the city, so welcome. Thank you. Anything, Mr. Maldonado?
Yeah, just would like to echo with my fellow members up here, where, you know, throughout these years, we've always, the community's always asked for this transparency, and obviously the auditor, it's your job, so I welcome it and look forward to working with you, and I'm sure the city manager's happy they're going to be in here, and if there's anything we need to find and fix, that's what you're here for, so thank you very much.
Okay. All in favor? Aye. Thank you. Okay, now we'll go back in order. Thank you guys from the FDOT. Tab 2. The discussion of Chrome Avenue truck bypass, preferred alternate. Is there a motion? Moved and seconded. Staff report.
Council members, this item refers to the truck bypass that's being proposed along Chrome Avenue, basically potentially taking the truck traffic off of Chrome through Campbell Drive and down the Turnpike. DOT is here to give a quick presentation, basically going over how they came up to this conclusion and what they need from us. Basically, they're looking for us to provide resolution recommending an alternative, so we'll talk about the alternative that they're recommending.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, George Gomez with FDOT. Here with me today is Jeff Easley from RS&H, our consultant on the project, and Mr. Dat Wynn from the DOT as well, project development engineer. Jeff is going to go through a quick presentation.
Good afternoon. I'm Jeff Easley. As George mentioned, I am the consultant project manager. A lot of these slides you may have already seen. We were here back in April. And this is the Chrome Avenue Truck Bypass PD&E study. This is an FDOT study that actually started back in 2008. And we've been on hold now for almost 2 years. And the reason is we're trying to get an alternative that we can get somewhat of a consensus, that we can satisfy at least the majority of people. I know there's always going to be someone that doesn't like where we're going to put the trucks, but our options are limited. Our project limits start south of Flagler Avenue to Avocado. That is the official FDOT project limits, and you'll see that we go way beyond that boundary. A PD&E study, that's the second stage in an FDOT project. All FDOT projects go through this. It's the last phase of planning before it goes into design and then construction. Background, the bypass has been talked about. I was involved back in 1993 with a study that I did, and it's been studied at least 4 times since then. As part of our study, we've had a public involvement program. We've briefed the elected officials numerous times. We have a project advisory committee that we've met 3 times with, and we've actually had 2 public alternatives workshops to date. Of course, the purpose is to get the trucks out of the historical downtown, to make it more safe for pedestrians. Also, that's a hurricane evacuation route, get the trucks away and make it a more pedestrian-friendly environment in the downtown area. Of course, today the trucks go right through downtown on Chrome Avenue. And that's just a photograph, and you've all seen those. The 18-wheel vehicles are coming and going, long trips, and you have the produce trucks that come through from the local growers in the fields. Our study, we've looked at 12 different routes, and we've looked all the way over to 187th Avenue, Redland Road. Now we're all the way over to the Turnpike. We've gone as far north as Biscayne, and we've gone all the way south to Palm, so we've covered almost the whole area of Florida City and Homestead. We've screened each one of those alternatives. We started with 12. We screened. We looked at traffic safety. We looked at noise. We looked at impacts, bicycle, pedestrian movements. We looked at convenience for the maneuverability of trucks, the adjacent growers. We had to consider all these things to make sure if we had a route that truck drivers would want to use it and we would not have to enforce it 24 hours a day. That brings us to our recommended or preferred alternative, as we call an alternative L. That's Campbell Drive. And trucks would use Campbell Drive from Chrome, and the route would go to the Heft. And the issues with that, of course, Campbell Drive between Chrome Avenue and US 1 have 9-foot travel lanes. So that's a problem to us. We would have to widen Campbell Drive to provide 12-foot lanes for the trucks. Also, we would have to provide a 12-foot median. That's a couple photographs of trucks that already use Camel Drive. Not a lot of trucks use it, but they do use Camel Drive today. And to propose improvements with this alternative, we would widen Camel Drive between Chrome Avenue and the Turnpike. And the reason we would do that is to bring it up to state standards, because today it's a county road. And to make this work and allow us to be able to actually prevent trucks from going through downtown, meaning ticketing them if they do, we have to take Chrome Avenue off of the state system, transfer the state system to the new route between Chrome and the Turnpike. And this would be the designated truck route. Trucks would be required to use this. Any trucks using, and then it's a city street. Chrome would be a city street. If you put no trucks, you can ticket trucks. And that's the one sure way you can get trucks out of downtown. This route would be, like I say, from Chrome to the Heft would be widened to provide 12-foot travel lanes with a 12 to 14-foot median to meet state standards. Interim improvements that we're considering. We know when we presented this to you back in April, it was not really a favorable move, and it's not something that we're set on. We are going to evaluate that as part of the PD&E because the PD&E study stopped, and we're going to move forward now. We'll look in detail at this alternative. Is there a possibility of diverting trucks to Campbell Drive today with improvements at the intersections? If trucks can turn safely, they can travel, and we could get the trucks out of downtown more quickly this way, but there's concerns over the safety with the 9-foot travel lanes. This may not be a possibility, but we will evaluate that as part of the study. The next steps, and I can't read that far, and I want to make sure I get these correct.
Not to interrupt you, but can I ask one quick question?
Yes.
Going back to Chrome and 8th Street, the intersection there, there's going to have to be a lot of improvement in there for the turning radiuses of trucks and stuff too.
Yes.
And all that's included. Is that in the package tonight? Because I haven't seen anything on that yet. Or do you have anything with you that shows what kind of...
Well, we have concepts. We don't have it as part of this package, but we are going to be widening the turning radius at Campbell and Chrome, at US 1 and Chrome, because we realize that trucks will use the quickest route, and we expect most trucks to turn on the US 1. I mean, there won't be a lot of reason for trucks to go all the way to the turnpike to go down to the farmer's market, and vice versa. They won't go all the way to the turnpike to go north. They'll come up US 1 and back to Chrome. So we will make intersection improvements at Campbell and Chrome, US 1 and Chrome, and also Davis in US 1 and Palm in US 1, and Chrome and Palm, because everywhere the trucks will be turning, we will make sure that the turning radius is wide enough, because that's the one thing, when trucks don't have the turning radius, they block the other lane, plus they go up on the sidewalk, and that's the area that's the most dangerous. So if we can provide that, then that may be a way to divert trucks now, and then when we can widen Campbell, we can get the wider lanes and make it even more safe. But we have some preliminary concepts that we've developed as part of the study today, and as the study goes forward, we'll be finalizing those and be more than happy to bring those back and show you what we got planned there.
Thank you. Sorry to interrupt.
Now, some of the process that has to happen, as I've already mentioned, Campbell Drive between Chrome Avenue and the Health would be transferred to the state highway system from Miami-Dade. The SIS, and I haven't, SIS is Strategic Intermodal System, and that's what Chrome is because of the trucks. Now, that's the designation given to it. That's why the designation has to be taken off of Chrome, reassigned to Campbell, so it will be illegal for trucks to go through downtown. And in coordination with Miami-Dade MPO to move this project up in the long-range transportation plan to get the funding to make it happen quicker. Finally, the next steps at least to finish the PD&E study. If we receive a consensus from the community on the preferred alternative and continue the PD&E study, the City of Homestead could work with the county to transfer Campbell Drive to FDOT, because that's where the request has to come from. The City of Homestead has to make the request for the road to be transferred. FDOT, of course, would accept that request. If it's practical, we could implement the short-term improvements. If not, we would not. And then complete the PD&E study, which estimated today, if we started today, we could probably be finished with the PD&E study by May 2013. And with that, I'll answer any questions you may have.
Okay. Any questions from the council? Mr. Shelley.
Mr. Chair, I remember from April's presentation, as far as choosing, I support the resolution that we have before us tonight, choosing alternative L as the route to get the trucks from Chrome Avenue to the F to get them off, the downtown area.
I support that, and I think that we can control our own destiny by choosing Campbell Drive versus trying to go outside our city limits and try to deal with all the problems that have come along with that process. However, the concern I still have is this idea of this interim use of Campbell Drive prior to actually making it safe for these trucks to use. I can't support that. I didn't support it in April. I still don't support it now. I think that this is something that, until that road is wide enough to accommodate trucks and normal traffic, to me it's a real safety concern, so I don't support that portion of it. But as far as going forward long-term and using this as the correct choice, I support it 100%. My question to you, I see that from you're going to finish the PD&E study in May 2013. When is if the PD&E study goes well, what would be the approximate completion date of the actual bypass then at that point? Do we have a time frame?
Of course, the funding would have to be secured, and just preliminary estimates. I mean, there's right-of-way that has to be acquired, and the widening, the construction could range from $18 to $25 million. And based on the funding, I mean, as soon as the funding is available, design could take place, and, right-of-way acquisition can take 18 to 24 months. Design would take 18 months, and then construction would probably take 24 months. So if the money was available today, most likely it would take 4.5 to 5 years to be open to traffic. Unfortunately, that's just the time frame. Even if someone wrote a big check and had the check sitting here, it takes us time just for reviews. FHWA has to approve our report, so it has to go to Tallahassee. It takes them a little bit of time to approve it. So we're looking at May 2013, and if the money was immediately available, right-of-way acquisition, and then design and then construction. So the earliest would be 5 years.
And there's no way to speed that process up. I understand right-of-way acquisition, that can take time because you're dealing with property owners and the whole things. We've got similar roads that we're dealing with now. But you would think that there'd be some way to speed that process up as far as the design, as far as the construction, as far as, I understand that it's contingent on funding, but 5 years is a long time to wait to get trucks off of Chrome Avenue, because we are in the process now of doing a downtown master plan and all these things, and it kind of puts all of that on hold while we're waiting for this to kind of unveil and turn into something that actually is workable. So, I mean, for me, my 2 points from this is one, I don't support the interim idea at all. And then two, we need to find a way to make this happen faster, because this is something we've been working on for many years, and I know you've been part of the process for many years as well. But we need to make sure that this is not something that gets put on the back burner, and that we can try to find a way to expedite this project.
Thank you. Anybody else? I would like to echo what Mr. Shelley has said. I support this, but I don't understand with the 9-foot lanes how we can even move forward. I mean, one of our city trolleys cannot pass a fire truck out there, and they've had more than one brushing. To try to turn as many trucks and get as many trucks as we do have come through the city down that road now, I think would be a big hazard. So I think we need to rethink that philosophy of the alternative being there until it's a safe for everybody. There's a lot of pedestrian traffic there also on that road, and I just think it would be a hazard. But I do support this. Of course, like everybody, this isn't my number one, but realism is, this is the best alternative we have. So I do support it, but I just think we need to rethink the temporary movement of trucks over there, or trying to get them moved there until the product is a finished and safe product for everybody in the city. So with that, I'll leave. Councilman Melanano? Okay. So I guess we're looking to move a resolution forward for this is what we need at the council meeting?
Correct.
Okay. All in favor? Aye. Thank you. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you. Thank you. I mean, you've been on it for 19 years, so I can't imagine the frustration level that you have dealing with this thing. So, thank you. Okay, move July 10th, tab 2, the July 10th, 2012 minutes. Is there a motion for approval? Second? All those in favor? Aye. Aye. Thank you. Okay, we did tab 3. Moving to tab 4. Motion to place car 567 on the agenda. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, staff report.
The ordinance will amend the city's code to reflect changes in service frequency of bulk trash and recycling collection from bi-monthly to weekly in order to provide better service to the residents. This change allows residents to take advantage of more frequent pickups. This also includes extended operating hours at the city's facility located at 548 Southeast 6th Avenue, providing access to dumpsters for resident drop-off 7 days a week from 7 a.m. to 4 p.m. Staff recommends Mayor and Council approve resolution to amend ordinance number 2010-07-20 to reflect bulk and recycling collection schedule changes as directed by Mayor and Council at July 18th council meeting. The schedule changes are anticipated to be implemented as of January 1st, 2013.
Questions or comments?
Mr. Chair?
Yes, sir.
The one comment I'd like to make is if you look at the resolution to be passed, one of the things in I think it's section 4, it says effective date, that this resolution shall be effective January 2nd, 2013. If for some reason we were to get the infrastructure in place to start or implement bulk trash pickup on a weekly basis prior to that, we'd be able to do so, correct? Because the resolution reads that would be the effective date. Is there any way to make that effective date earlier, and then we can choose as a policymaker at that point whether to implement this prior to January or to wait till January to implement? I just don't want to tie our hands. That's something I guess I'm asking the question about.
I think that you should maybe amend it to say no later than.
Okay.
And that way, if it was ready earlier, staff could implement it earlier.
It's looking like.
Can I?
Okay.
Is that all, Mr. Shelley?
Yeah, I just want to make sure that we have as much flexibility as possible.
Councilman Maldonado.
I just wanted to just look over to our director and see if I get a nod or something. If it's possible now. I think the reason this came forward is that we just wanted to make sure that you had enough time to implement and educate and get that information out. So this is, I know that Councilman Shetty's not asking for rush, he's just asking that if we're ahead of time, we're not locking ourselves in, so.
Yeah, we're okay with that change. We're okay.
Actually, what I'll do for the, when we bring it to the council meeting, is I'll have the resolution effective immediately, the program to be implemented no later than January 2nd. I'll change this. It'll be slightly different when it comes to it to the council, but I'll take care of it.
So we don't need a motion to change it?
You should leave, you can pass it the way it is, and then I'll change it for the council.
Yeah, just for clarification, the reason I asked that question is one, to give us flexibility. I know that we had this discussion, and the idea was to make sure that we had time to implement notification to the residents, making sure they knew what their dates were going to be, and I think that coincided when our next mail-out will be for the next calendar year. But I know one of the purposes that I had when I brought forth or asked that this be brought forth was that it's for the cleanliness of the community as well. So if a month or 2 months from now we have the trucks, we have employees, and we can go out there and start picking up bulk trash on a weekly basis, I think that helps the cleanliness of our neighborhoods, and then we can always worry about making sure that we get the schedule mailed out to the residents thereafter. So that's the reason for asking, could we start earlier? And again, that'll be a policy decision that we can make as a council going forward. But I just want to make sure we have the flexibility for that.
That's fine. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Next item is tab 5. Motion to place car 565, change order for additional professional service at Whitcop Park on the agenda.
Move it.
Second.
Second.
Staff report, please.
Staff recommends Mayor and Council authorize city manager to approve additional $21,751.78 for purchase order number 110522 for Cornelio Ajamil and Partners. The amendment is to cover meetings and review construction quality with NAC Construction that Vermeo was asked to address regarding the Whitcott Park construction project. These additional professional services are outside the prior scope of work, but were deemed necessary by the city to complete the project. This is a CDBG funded project, therefore the additional amount will be paid with CDBG funds.
Questions or comments?
I have a quick question. Will this be used out of the funds, the CDBG funds that we were allocating for our next nonprofit grant?
No, these were taken into account that this was going to occur, so it's not in there.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Next item, tab 6, Motion to place car 569, waiver of use fees. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Second. Okay, staff report, please.
The International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers would like to hold a barbecue on Saturday, September 8, 2012, at the Harris Field Pavilion in honor of Hurricane Andrew's 20th anniversary. According to the city's code, Chapter 20, Section 20-11, fees and charges, City Council sets fees and therefore has the right to waive parks and recreational fees by a majority vote. They're requesting Mayor and Council authorize City Manager to approve a waiver of usage fees in the amount of $363.80 for the use of the Harris Field Pavilion on Saturday, September 8, 2012.
Questions or comments? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Next item. Tab 7, motion to place car 572, turf and landscape maintenance agreement on the agenda. Is there a motion? Second? Second. Staff report, please.
Staff recommends Mayor and Council authorize City Manager to execute the attached turf and landscape maintenance agreement between the State of Florida Department of Transportation and the City of Homestead. City of Homestead maintains the turf and landscaping along US 1 and Chrome Avenue median strips and right-of-ways. FDOT reimburses the city for maintaining the landscaping. The term of this agreement shall be for a period of 1 year with 2 one-year extensions at the mutual consent of both parties.
Questions, comments? Hearing none. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Next item, tab 8, motion to place car 566, replacement of damaged police K-9 patrol vehicle. Is there a motion?
Move it.
Been moved and seconded. Thank you. Staff report.
Staff recommends the Mayor and Council approve the attached resolution authorizing the City Manager to purchase one 2013 Chevrolet Tahoe with equipment configured for K-9 patrol to replace one damaged 2010 Ford Crown Victoria K-9 patrol vehicle. Purchase cost under Florida Sheriff's Association bid number 11-19-0907 is $40,056. The K-9 cage and safety alarm systems will be purchased and installed by Radiotronics, the system's manufacturer, for $5,983 for a total delivered cost of $46,039. Funding is from the self-insurance, $27,249, and $18,790 from the general fund.
Questions, comments? I just have one comment. I didn't even know that we had lost a car. Somewhere along the line, the line of communications, I was never even aware. So when I saw this, I wasn't even aware that we were in need of one. So I don't know if in the future we lose a car. I know it's been a while, but I wasn't even aware of that the car was totaled or anything. I knew that there had been a wreck, but I wasn't aware of a car being totaled out or anything. And I told Lieutenant Bell, next time he does this, we're going to have to get a smart car. And the dog and him can ride around together. Yeah. Okay. No, I just, when I saw it, I wasn't even aware that we had lost one, so I don't know if it was somewhere along the line the communication had been broken down. Okay. Any questions? And I did check with Lieutenant Bell, and we've gotten good reviews on the Tahoe that we do have in service, much better than the Fords and things like that. And I asked him about buying, well, why don't we use a Charger or whatever, and he explained to me there's just not enough room, and when an officer has to put a K-9 into a Charger or a Taurus car of that sort, they have to lose or leave some of their gear behind. So, there's the safety aspect for both the officer and the K-9 at that point. So that's what I was told. So anyway, all those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Next item, tab 9, motion to place 553, bid number 200905, tree trimming and line clearing services on the agenda. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, staff report, please.
Contract bid number 200905 covers the cutting and removal of brush, trees, and other vegetation necessary to provide suitable electrical and mechanical clearance between trees, power lines, apparatus, and structures within the City of Homestead's electric service territory. Staff recommends that the Mayor and Council authorize the City Manager to extend Asplund Tree Expert Company bid number 200905 for one additional year in the amount of $125,000. This contract covers the trimming and clearing of any trees and vegetation in conflict with the clearances required for the electrical facilities of Homestead Energy Services.
Questions or comments? Yes, sir, Mr. Shelley.
Mr. Chair, just more of a procedural question. I saw here that there's a bid tabulation sheet. So for this case, we had the contract, we could have extended it, but we also put it out to bid, and then ultimately we decided to stick with the terms of the contract? Is that what that means here?
Vice Mayor and Council, no, they just included the tabulation from the previous solicitation. They just included it there. We reached out to the local vendors to see if anybody had a specialized license for electrical utility tree trimming, and there was nobody local. So we met with the electric utility, and they decided to go ahead and extend the contract.
Okay, but I just was curious that it seemed odd that we would renew a contract but also put it out to bid, and so that's why I was but this is from the original bid.
Correct.
Years ago. All right, thank you.
Any other comments? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, next item, tab 10. Motion to place car 555, bid number 201207, Canal Crossing at Southwest 152nd Avenue and Canal C-103 on the agenda. Is there a motion? Second? Moved and seconded. Staff report, please.
To improve electrical service reliability for the customers in the area around Southwest 312th Street and Southwest 152 Avenue, a subaquatic crossing. The Canal C is required in order to be able to tie two main electrical circuits together. This tie will allow for contingencies in rerouting main electrical circuits should there be a power outage on one circuit. The circuit tie provides flexibility in reconfiguring multiple circuits when needed. A directional boring technique will be used to install an electrical conduit system under the canal. The conduit will be used to pull in underground 13 kV wires to tie the two main electrical circuits together. Staff recommends the Mayor and Council authorize the City Manager to award bid number 201207, sub-aqueous canal crossing at Southwest 152 Avenue and South Canal C-103 to the sole bidder, Mastech North America, in the amount of $135,119.
Thank you. I've got a question. I guess my one question is, Mastech's the only one that responded. Is it because the scope of work was beyond the other vendors, or what was the...
Vice Mayor and Council, I'm really not sure why we had only one bid. We did have 11 attendees at the pre-bid. There seemed to be some interest. It is a very specialized job, and there is a lot of risk involved for the contractor. If the bottom of the canal should collapse, all that risk is placed on them. So that could be one reason.
Okay, so there's no risk on the city at all if they should go and that happens?
Priscilla has seen to that. No.
Vice Mayor, if I can elaborate, we actually contacted some of the vendors to ask them, why did you come to the pre-bid meeting and why didn't you submit a proposal? A lot of them came back and like Ken alluded to, it's a very complex job, especially the electrical part, and so they decided not to put in a proposal.
Thank you. Thank you. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Tab 11, motion to place car 568, bid number 201211, Rice Neshat Compliance Phase 1. Is there a second? Thank you. Staff report.
The U.S. EPA formulated and issued a final rule aimed at limiting the amount of hazardous air pollutants emitted by older existing stationary diesel engines. This new rule is titled Reciprocating Internal Combustion Engines National Emissions Standards for Hazardous Air Pollutants. Compliance is required by May 3rd of 2013 and requires that carbon monoxide levels in the engine exhaust be reduced by a minimum of 70%. With this project, Homestead Energy Services will install oxidation catalysts and monitoring equipment on the three largest engines in the Gordon-Ivy power plant to achieve compliance with the rule. Oxidation catalysts for the 7 remaining engines that are smaller in size are being budgeted for the fiscal year 2013 capital budget. Staff recommends the Mayor and Council authorize City Manager to award bid number 201211 to the lowest, most responsive bidder, Pool and Can Company of Florida, in the amount of $850,000.
Any questions or comments? Mr. Shelley.
Mr. Chair, My question, I guess, relates to to kind of the power plant in general, and that is, I know that we've had a couple items come before us now for maintenance, repair, or otherwise for the generators there, and some of them fairly big-ticket items, and it looks like there's a phase 2 coming. When was the last time we did like an assessment of what our potential repairs are for the power plant versus what, upgrading the power plant would cost? I mean, have we done anything like that recently?
We have that on our agenda to discuss on the capital improvement plan, so
Okay.
that's one of our topics.
Okay. The reason now is because, the fact that it's $850,000, we've had some other large expenditures as well. It seems like we want to address that kind of as a whole to make sure that we don't keep just putting money out there that ultimately, if we'd have put together at once, we might have been able to do more good with. So thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, hearing none. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Let's call it a night. Let's go.
Now, the next presentation is 20 points, so if you want to take a break, you're welcome.
Why don't we take about a 2 or 3 minute break so everybody can run to the restroom real quick if they need to, since most people have been sitting here for a while. And then we'll start in with George's presentation. Thank you. Thank you, Patty. Am I doing okay? You can hear me? She's not coming today. Proposed capital improvement projects. I guess we don't really need a motion, just a presentation and report.
Okay, everybody's here? I didn't want to be rude because...
There is breaking news now on Fox News Channel, and you are looking live at an absolute horror unfolding before our eyes in the city of Minneapolis. The Interstate 35 bridge has collapsed. People are still being in the water. Cars and trucks have tumbled off. An 18-wheeler is up in flames. We have absolutely no idea what caused this, but we can see an absolute tragedy has developed.
Seemed like this happened yesterday, but this was in 2007. And when this was happening, and if you all recall, nobody really knew why the bridge had collapsed. But then everybody started with, oh my God, have we looked at our bridges? And how many of our bridges are structurally deficient? And state by state, everybody started looking at their bridges. And turns out, and thankfully we don't control any bridges here in Homestead, but of the top worst states, the District of Columbia, they have 62% of their bridges are structurally deficient. And when you think about the tragedy that happened in '07, where people died and was a very tragic situation, and people then started to really look at bridges, we still have lots of bridges that are structurally deficient. And when we talk about capital projects and really looking at your infrastructure and addressing that, it really comes down to the old Tom Cruise, show me the money. These projects are very expensive projects, whether they be bridges or your water infrastructure, your sewer infrastructure, and everybody, money has been tight to begin with, so it really becomes an issue of priorities, and it's happening all over the country.
NBC News in depth. Tonight, the nation's crumbling cities. That underground pipe explosion this week here in New York that killed one person and injured dozens has focused new attention on the state of the underpinnings of our cities and towns from coast to coast. Systems and structures that many of us use every day but hardly ever think about. Fixing the problems will cost a lot of money, perhaps more than $1.6 trillion. Here's NBC's Lee Cowan tonight in depth.
When New York blew up some steam this week, it was like an old radiator rattling the rest of the country. Many of our cities are showing their age, and not in a particularly great way. The American Society of Civil Engineers gives a near failing grade to almost every aspect of the nation's infrastructure. Bridges, roads, rails, and water, just to name a few.
What we really need is some sort of a long-term vision to revamp that equipment that's now rapidly becoming obsolete.
Every day in most of our larger cities, we relied on systems built right around the turn of the century. New York's Brooklyn Bridge opened in 1883, when traffic consisted of horses and cars. Grover Cleveland was in the White House when Chicago's L system began. And Elvis was top of the charts when most of the nation's electrical systems were wiring homes for TV. Blackouts like this one in Los Angeles are now often blamed on those old transformers, unable to handle modern-day demand. But it's pipes that seem to be failing the most. Steam, water, sewer. This one in St. Cloud, Minnesota this week finally burst after 80 long years of service. In San Diego, there were 123 water main breaks just last year alone.
It definitely underscores the importance of upgrading the city's drinking water system.
Atlanta is doing just that, spending nearly $4 billion on a new state-of-the-art drinking water system. But to do it, customers' water and sewer rates leap through the roof.
It is impossible for Atlanta to do this well without federal, state, and county help.
People have now seen enough accidents, they've seen enough disasters to know that this is a real problem, and at some point it's going to affect their lives.
And consider this, the U.S. is expected to grow by some 100 million people, and that's just over the next 50 years, adding more stress and strain to this aging system that is already on life support. Lee Cowan, NBC News, New York.
So with that in mind, we had made a promise to you last year as we thought through revamping the budget process. Last year was the budget presentation and the booklet, making sure that all the documents, all the information got to you in a timely way before you voted on the budget, and we had promised at that time that the next phase of this would be our capital improvement plan process. What we asked all of the departments to do is to go through all of the infrastructure that they're responsible for and answer basic standardized questions to ensure that everybody's asking the same questions, answering the same questions, understanding what projects are needed, understanding why, if there's something on the list, why there's something in the book, there should be a reason for it. So, for example, if there is a health and safety issue, it gets on the list. If it's a council priority, it gets on the list. If council members individually ask for something, it got on the list. If it's an issue of a maybe thing, like to have it, maybe sort of like to have it, it may be on the list, it may not be on the list. What we'd like to do is go through some of the highlights. As you can see from last year and the previous years, your capital improvement plan was about the size width of a paperclip. And what we did this year is we gave you the whole thing. And what you saw in those 4 books, or for those of you that like PDFs, you have every application, everything that the department heads have worked through to justify why things are on the list, and start thinking about your priorities. We won't put anybody on the spot here tonight. We don't necessarily need any specific answers tonight. On the other hand, if you see something on the list and you say, absolutely not, we don't want that, that's helpful for us because then we can take it off the list. If you see something on the list that's an absolute priority and you want staff to start working on it immediately, it's a year 1, it's absolutely have to have, important for us to know that as well. We'll also have some discussion with you tonight about some health and safety issues, which we think demand some discussion. But with that, and we have spent an awful lot of time with the department heads really trying to understand each of their projects, trying as best as we can to prioritize. And for the purposes of definition, a capital project is defined as any physical improvement in excess of $5,000 which has a useful life of at least 5 years, and the acquisition of equipment or software that is in excess of $5,000 and a useful life of at least 5 years. So that's the basic framework for the plan. And then what we tried to do is, as we went through those binders, as we looked at each one of the plans, try to plug them in according to priorities. First, health and safety, then council priorities, because if you say you want something done next year, we'll talk about how we're going to pay for it, but at the end of the day, you decide if something is immediate, something is year 1. If we're physically capable of doing it as an organization and we have the money, we do it. Whether we think there's something more important or not operationally, the only thing we dig our heels in are on health and safety issues. But beyond that, you really decide the priority. This is just a recommendation based on staff evaluation and some feedback that we've received from all of you. And another few items on this grid here is we plugged them in year by year, so it's a 5-year plan. But then there were some big ticket projects, or some projects, even though small, we're not really sure where you stand on them, and we certainly don't have funding sources yet, so they went in a column called To Be Program, and that's why when you see down at the bottom, we're talking about roughly $215 million worth of projects that include the 5-year plan plus the To Be Program column, and we'll get to some of those big ticket items towards the end of the presentation, so we can maybe, if not today, at some point get some feedback on what direction that we're going on those. So that's the basic system here that we've used, and we'll go through some of these. Another few things is some of the projects are funded, most of the projects are funded outside the general fund. And in fact, when we first met with you, we had talked maybe about $850,000 being funded from the general fund. But as we're trying to close out the operating budget, we really, this is not a good year, and there's not a whole lot of revenue around, so we pushed as many projects outside of the general fund as possible, so there's only roughly $300,000 coming from the general fund, and the rest are coming from the other funds. Some of them are the utilities, some of them are funded by grants, and that list there describes how each of the areas are funding. And one other important point is the bulk of the projects for next year will be from electric and from public works, and again, most of those are not coming from the general fund. We're going to go through some of the year 1 proposals so that you can kind of get a sense of what's in year 1, and along the way, if there's something that you say, oh my God, what is that doing on the list, feel free. If there's some here you want to kill, now's the time to do it. But there's plenty of opportunity from now till the time you adopt the budget, because the capital improvement plan is adopted as part of the budget. And this is really just the planning document, because any project that's on this list has to come back to you anyway for our funding. And The whole process from the bidding and the designs and the two readings, all those, the cow and the regular meetings. So you're going to have plenty of opportunity to decide on any of these projects, but this really for us is the planning and prioritization process. Agenda management, a clerk's office, this really digitizes the whole operation, gets us to be more efficient, gets the information hopefully to you a little quicker than we've been able to produce for you, and it's a tough thing with planning boards meeting the week before. It's always a mad dash to try to get the agenda out. We hope this will help get it out quicker and also to give the public a little more transparency. Now this one here is part of the discussion for City Hall, but we have it here because it's in the clerk's budget. It really isn't just about the clerk. There are oodles and oodles and mounds of records in all the departments all over the city, and they need to be addressed with some dignity. The law requires us to maintain them, and so we're going to need to start managing these records to being compliant with law and also to give access, and we'll talk a little too about the mold issues as well, but I just wanted to get this on your radar screen at this point. And then also another City Hall related item, but we've been doing small renovations to these chambers, and the next question would be is do we want to do something with the seats, or do we want to wait, assuming if we do another City Hall, do you still want to do the renovations, some additional renovations, because even if you decided tomorrow we're going to do a City Hall, it'll take some time to get a new City Hall open, so then we'll need some direction on whether you want to do any more renovations to these chambers. Development services, again, it's more about digitization on the operations side, which is trying to merge all the databases they have and some of the paper items that they have and get them all into one system, and then also integrate that into some sort of a web program so that the public can have access to it as well. The key is to be able to have an address, type in an address, and then have everything you wanted to know about the address. The zoning code, and if there's any encumbrances on the property, are there any special restrictions, is there any special history, and it'd be very helpful not only for the staff to have that at their fingertips, but also for the public as well. Electric utilities, you saw in the video piece, there's a reason some cities have brownouts and blackouts, is because at some point they can't handle the capacity. So the electric utility is trying to stay ahead of the curve here, and they're trying to do some upgrades. Some of them are smaller than large. This one here at Homestead Plaza needs an upgrade. But this one here is a little more proactive, and that is at some point we'll need a substation, and so since land is, the prices have dropped on land, they're thinking this is a good opportunity to start looking around for another parcel for an additional substation at a future time. Small renovations to the line crew office and a mini excavator, because right now staff is sharing with parks, and so it's not really working for them, and they feel it'd be more efficient to have the excavator. A few other technical things. This particular one, when this was built, the distribution line, it was built on the wrong side, so it's facing the private property side, and they needed to face the street side, and they feel that helps them for efficiency purposes, but also for safety purposes as well. We also have the question which Councilman Shelley asked, which is we have these old, antiquated generators that are at some point will be taken out of circulation. What happens and where are we going with our needs for power generation? What makes the most sense? Does it make sense to have our own generators? Is there another solution? So what we've done with this particular one is say, okay, we need $60,000 to study the issue and come back to you with more information. They're predicting that we're going to need new generation somewhere in the $9 million range. That may be the right number, it might not be the right number, it might be the best approach, or there may be something else out there. So before we go ahead and take that $9 million and program it in a particular year, we moved it over to the to-be programmed list, gave the 2012-13 the $60,000 for the study, put everything else aside until we come back to you with some solid information and recommendations. A few other upgrades, the small wire upgrade, replacing and upgrading wire on electrical line section of Southwest 182 Avenue from Southwest 328th to Southwest 312th Street to larger wire. And again, all this is to improve the load capacity And then also on underground feeder 22030, place existing overhead run of electrical wires underground. And again, this is an issue of efficiency, and then we also have the underground line relocation as well. And this is from along Southwest 328th Street from Northeast 6th Avenue to Southwest 162 Avenue. General services, you're going to see throughout this presentation a number of vehicles. These are the oldest vehicles. They're past their prime, and we're looking to replace some of them. Roadside assistance truck. You're also going to see throughout this as well a lot of IT stuff. This is the email server upgrade. This is in need of replacement, as is the area network, the storage area network. We also have some minor repairs in the buildings, one of which is the mold mitigation at general services, and procurement, and then some plumbing and electrical work. And the roof, we're looking at it right now. We have programmed $118,000, although like police department, we said, can you get by another year? Police department said they can get by another year on their roof. With general services, they said that the leaks are so very bad in the office area, which is the square all the way to the right of the screen. So we're looking at the possibility of maybe just patching that area and then revisiting the roof next year. So that's something that's a work in progress, and we'll get back to you on once we have a solid recommendation. This trailer needs to be replaced. The stuff that we're putting inside is getting wet and ruined, and it's not working for us at this point. Parks and Recreation, the plan is outdoor exercise equipment, $24,000. Body curls, push-ups, chin-ups, handrails, that kind of thing. This one here is a $700,000 project for the summer, winter camp, and facility rental. The theory here is that since Lale no longer, the facility is not available to us for the camps, the idea would be to have a building that we can do summer camps in a larger way than what we've been doing now. So also the winter camp option and some facility rentals. Waterstone Park, we have programmed $3.5 million. The first year, 2012-13, $500,000 for land acquisition costs, and then the bulk of it after that for park development. Parks Barn restroom, old, needed repairs. At this point, looking to install new toilets and sinks, repair and paint the walls, and repair the exterior and do some electrical work. Renovations of FOP, we have a contract with them. They're a tenant of ours, but the contract requires us to make the repair, so that $45,000 is in there for there. We also, some of you have expressed concern about the condition of some of the facilities at Roby George, so we put in here $90,000 to renovate the restrooms, the locker rooms, and resurface the pools. We also have the some of the amenities, the picnic tables, the benches, and also the trash receptacles. And then for security purposes, to try to cut down on some vandalism, $26,000 for the solar beams. Security perimeter, and then also some signage, which we've estimated at $10,000. And also some solar beams over at FICO Williams. And this one here came to us, several of you mentioned the stage and the equipment at the community center. The vision for this was to have a stage. We've programmed $11,853 for a small stage. It's 20 by 12 by 2. You know, not the big wooden kind that you would see in some auditoriums. So if there's interest in doing something larger, if you could mark that out as a discussion item, because we just need some direction. If we're going to do one, we just want to make sure we have the kind that you're looking to do.
I have a quick question as far as the format of your presentation. Would you like for us to hold questions to the end, or you don't mind us?
I don't mind stopping.
Oh, okay.
So whatever, if you'd like, you know what, let me go through the rest of it,
okay,
and then
perfect.
This way. I know, okay, you have a good idea, okay. Police department, I'll try to make it as quick as possible. This is the rapid ID. This helps police officers make their identifications right from the field, $25,000, and also their voice recording replacement, $14,000. And they also have some IT needs, their exchange upgrade, and then the SWAT vehicle is in need of replacement. And then we're talking some telephone issues as well, so they're proposing $18,000 for that replacement, and the in-car video recorders would be five units total. And then the license upgrades for the Windows server, and that's the police department. Public Works, some garbage trucks, the front-end loader, the side loader need replacement. The trolley, this is one of those where it's really a requirement. We entered into an agreement, and so this is our share of the grant obligation to buy one of the trolleys, $185,000. Street sweeper, we're proposing. And then we have a flatbed truck. And then, of course, we've got the pickup truck, the 4x4, which is in need of repair. This is where the magic happens, folks, the sequence batch reactor maintenance. This sequence batch reactor is where it all happens, and so we want to make sure it happens the right way. So that's $15,000. We have the cargo van, the chlorine analyzers. They're old and outdated. In fact, some of them are 15 years old. And the booster pumps would go along with those as well. This one here, it comes down to practicality. We don't have the pressure to get all the water to fill that tank up to capacity, so we feel the booster pumps will get us to full capacity. The pressure doesn't get all the water up to the top and fill the tank completely, so the booster pumps will help us do that. And the soft starter for motors, and this is at Whitcock, well number 1. This one here, the idea was, since we're going to be doing the Washington Avenue Phase 2 project anyway with the CRA, that's a good opportunity to go in there and replace some of those old pipes, many which have asbestos. And the recurring projects are on here because each year you'll see we do a little bit on sidewalks and street improvements, and you'll see on your worksheets we're basically allotting, specific amounts for each of these recurring projects, and we do that every year. And there's lots of them. And then the to-be programmed list. These are the big-ticket items where we don't have funding identified. Several of you have discussed issues, and this is a good example, the plant expansion. We had a discussion a few months back about the fine that we received because we're pulling too much water out. And Julio had mentioned at the time, well, if the wastewater treatment plant was expanded and it was able to produce more, we'd be able to pump more into the ground, and the state would then give us the ability to draw more water out of the ground. So this project is a $40 million project, and it's a big-ticket item. New City Hall, several things about this I'd like to talk to you about. The first one is, clearly, a committee met several years ago, talked about a design, there was a study that was done, and then this thing has been put on hold. So there's a couple of policy issues to consider. Number one, is there a policy reason to build a new city hall someplace? Some I've heard have talked about economic development and revitalization of the downtown. Others have said this is not a functional building and we'd like to consolidate the staff to have as many people as possible under one roof. And then, of course, there's the concerns about how much money it will cost to repair this building if we decide to stay here. And then, of course, there's the health and safety concerns. And I'd like to address some of the health and safety concerns today because this really is breaking news. It's the kind of thing that has really started to envelop our world here in City Hall. I sent this report to you last week. It's a 200-plus page report from EnviroTeam that looked at the building from top to bottom. And they looked at everything, and they documented everything they found by pictures. And if you look through that, all the pictures, you can kind of see the mound of trouble that we have here within the building. The thing that has kind of consumed most of our efforts right now has been the most pressing, and that is the issue of radon. And for those of you who don't know what radon is a colorless, odorless, radioactive gas that forms naturally from the decay of radioactive elements such as uranium, which are found at different levels in the soil and rock throughout the world. So the uranium decays, and it seeps its way up the soil, and it comes out into the atmosphere. Well, when you're outside, and you can see this graphic here, it shows how the radon sneaks through cracks in the solid floors and through the joints and through the walls and through the pipes and comes through water. And that's a typical condition that happens everywhere. Radon is everywhere, and there's nothing we can do to stop radon. The United States Environmental Protection Agency basically has tried to explain this very complicated scientific medical issue like this. Normal levels found in the outside air are 0.4 picocuries per liter. Now, what's a picocurie, you might ask? Well, a picocurie is the way they measure how much radiation is in the air. So when they say 0.4 picocuries, that is the level of radiation that is in the air. So when you walk outside, typically you're breathing in 0.4 picocuries per liter. Now, the average indoor, so if you go into a typical structure, the average is roughly 1.3 picocuries per liter. Now, what the EPA says is, like that graphic that we showed, sometimes the gas starts sneaking into a structure and it has nowhere to go, so it starts to accumulate. And what the EPA says is that somewhere between 2 to 4 picocuries, you really should start thinking about mitigating the problem so that the gas doesn't sneak into the structure. But then they have the recommended action level, which is a technical term that they use. And what they say is that if it reaches 4 picocuries maximum or more, then they really say you better do 2 things. The first thing is immediately test again, just to make sure that the initial tests that you did were accurate. Because sometimes these short-term tests, and what they do is they put a little canister in the office and they let it sit for a couple of days, and then they go and they measure it, and that tells them how much picocurie is in the air, and sometimes they're not accurate, or sometimes they underestimate what you really have. So, but the EPA says immediately test. So last week I ordered testing of every office in this building. The canisters had been accumulating for the last 3-4 days, and as of yesterday, they collected them all, and hopefully by next week we will have the results of those tests as well to confirm what we have here. Because what the first group of tests showed us is this: the basement center room, 7.1 picocuries. The basement yellow room, 8.4 picocuries. First floor development services, and this was a surprise because typically the highest concentrations are in the basement. This was 8.8 picocuries per liter, more than double what the EPA recommends for the recommended action level. Planning center desk, 6.8. Good news, the first floor council chamber meeting room, only 3.5 picocuries. And then, of course, the clerk's office, 7.1 picocuries. So we don't really have much choice here but to get the results and then come back to you with a remediation plan, because if these numbers stay the same or worse, we're going to have to talk about some short-term ways to get this down. But the longer term is add this to the pile of the things that you need to address with this City Hall. And then we also have the mold issue. And inside the environmental report that we did, throughout the building there's mold. Clearly in the basement is the worst of it, and the most immediate concern we have is a lot of those records that you saw in that photo, staff actually uses on a regular basis, particularly in HR and in the building services department. So what we did on an immediate short-term basis is lock the doors and tell them they can't use the files. That can't go on forever, so we're going to have to come back to you and say, this is what it's going to cost to get those files out of there, clean them with an environmental team, and then make them usable in some form, and we're not sure yet. The problem is that the mold has accumulated on those records, and staff has been going down there, and some of the mold readings that we got in some of the departments, the highest readings tended to be those that were using those records. So we suspect that tracking up some of that mold from the records, it's also not something that, it's not the black mold, dangerous, you're going to die after coming in contact with it. It's the kind of mold that for some people who are sensitive to it, their bodies react in different ways, but it is all over the building. And one of the reasons it's all over the building is because water is permeating through the building from many different places. And the consultants basically said that you need to address the roof, You need to replace the entire ventilation system. You need to rip up the carpets. You need to seal up the cracks, if not replace the facade of the building. You need to seal up the basement and clean the basement. You need to seal the windows. So there's a lot of different things on the list. And then as you start thinking about what's the best way to approach the whole City Hall question, you have something to factor into your decision-making process. So on the one hand, it's policy. Do we want to move a City Hall one place or another because of some other reason unrelated to operations? And then the short-term problems of we have a radon issue and we have a mold issue that needs to be addressed because employees, people come to this building, they work in the building, and they're all concerned. And you should all be aware that we met with all the staff in the building to let them know what was in the report. And they know everything we know at this point. We don't know anything more, and we're not holding any additional information. What we know is what we know, and we've told everybody, and when the new test results come in, we'll meet with everybody again and just give them real-time information so that nobody is, runs away with their imaginations. Because the other thing about radon is we know, the scientists and the doctors know that radon causes lung cancer. They know that for sure. But they don't know how long you have to be exposed to it in order for it to actually cause lung cancer. So when you're breathing in the radon, it could be a lifetime of breathing it in before it impacts your health, but nobody really knows. So there's statistics, and the actuaries have all done their own calculations, but people are concerned, and so we feel the best way to address that is to give them all the information we have, and then come back to you with a plan to at least address the immediate problem. New police station falls into the same category of we have a building that really doesn't serve our needs, and we also know over time, since the city is almost doubled in population, we're going to need more police officers. So the police station is also something that's been talked about as possibly doing a separate building, possibly doing a joint building with the City Hall, but we put it on the screen as well as one of those topics for direction. EOC, same thing. We know that this very room was the EOC during Hurricane Andrew, and they got by, they did their thing, but 20 years later, what we know about what EOC should have, how they should function, we need an EOC. And so if we build a City Hall, we should talk about, the original plan, the new plan, whatever it is. Should we make sure that an EOC be part of the plan and/or in the police station, or the new police station, assuming there is one? And the same on the customer service lobby. Two issues with this is several of you have said you don't really like the way that customer service, it's not really enough to serve our customers' needs. It's not really a pleasant experience. So we looked at it several different ways. The first one was, do we really even need a customer service lobby long term? And we hired a consultant. We have a draft report, which we'll get to you soon, which basically looks at the operation and asks the question, how much stuff that the public is required to do in that lobby do they really need to do in the lobby? Because certainly if you're an FP&L customer, for most things, first of all, they don't have a lobby. And almost anything that you need, you can call up or you can deal with it without having to go anywhere. So we've looked at operationally, how could we achieve something like that? And so we'll come back to you to have a discussion about that, as how much of our operations where we're actually requiring the public to go can we actually do with a different system. And still, if we need a lobby, then the question is, are you doing a City Hall or not? Because if you're not doing a City Hall, then maybe we should talk about doing the lobby. If you're going to do a new City Hall, are you comfortable with having the customer service lobby in the new City Hall? So those are some of the customer service issues that are kind of bubbling to the surface that we'll need some direction on at some point as well. This is the interchange project, $12 million. You got the letter that the mayor presented you a couple of months ago, maybe last month, which the state said they'd be willing to put in half of the project, assuming a development agreement is in place between the property owner and the developer, and then we'd be talking not so much about funding $12 million, but where the other $6 million would come from, assuming you're all on board with this interchange concept. Seminole Theater, been talked about a whole lot. Our draft estimate, our ballpark estimate is around $6 million to renovate, and that's, again, an unfunded project. And Campbell Drive roadway improvements. This is the question of, you've done your improvements. How far west do you want to go? Is this something that you want to invest in over time? Lucy Street expansion, you know what's happening on the one side, the east side, the west side, joint project, Florida City, County, City of Homestead, a lot of dialogue between the three entities. Projected cost, $2.8 million. We think worst case scenario, 1/3 apiece per organization, but we're hoping it'll be less. But we put it on the radar screen because you're the policymakers and you also should decide if this is a priority. We continue to dialogue. If it's something you don't want to do, you don't want to consider, this is the kind of thing where any feedback that we get is helpful. And then ADA requirements is about $500,000 worth throughout the organization. Again, unfunded, and that's just something that we need to keep looking at to find a funding source. And sorry to take up as much time as I did, but it's 200 some odd million dollars worth of projects. I think warrants some discussion, and if you have questions, if you have comments, anything, feedback is appreciated.
I guess the question is, how do we want to work through the slideshow? One at a time, as groups, or how do you guys want to start?
Vice Mayor? Vice Mayor, I'm sorry, when you say one at a time, do you mean one topic at a time, or one slide?
One at a time, I can go right back to you.
Yeah, why don't we start with that and see how that works out, start with it. And I guess where I'm at it is because this is a big discussion that's probably going to be for another day and not tonight to be solved, but in lieu of what we've been told with the scientific evidence that's been projected, I think that at some point in the very near future that we should have some sort of workshop about the new City Hall, whether you're for it or against it. I think it needs to be discussed.
Yeah.
And I don't think, I mean, while tonight may be a night just whatever, you're not looking for yes and no's tonight.
Correct.
But I think that I would personally like to have a workshop sooner than later or some sort of forum where we can discuss it. And I think it needs to be solved one way or the other.
I'm thinking maybe a good time to do that is once we get the next round of tests and we get some sort of a recommendation from the environmental specialists, we can come back and have a discussion both about the short-term issues and cost and also the larger vision of what the council wants to do.
Vice Mayor?
Yes.
I'd like to take that a step further, and I agree with you completely. First of all, I want to commend the city manager for doing the environmental report. We should have done that years and years and years and years ago because there's no telling how long these levels have been where they are. I know for myself, when my carpet was removed, and like, I don't know, maybe Patty remembers, it was like 2004, 2005, I was covered with, the whole floor and the wall was covered with black mold, and it was never treated, it was never taken care of. And my allergies have gotten worse and worse over the years, and I know that people, we may not want to face this right now, but you have to face it. And I'm not willing to take that responsibility to leave our employees in a sick building. And right now, this building is sick. So I would even suggest looking into some portables or something to an office building that we could, move our services over to temporarily until we know that those radon levels are lower. And then I agree with the Vice Mayor. We have to make a decision, and the time is now. And we have to do it, and whatever we do, I think we should do a combined City Hall and police station. I mean, because no telling what you'd find over there if you did environmental study. So, I just think we should take action, some sort of action right now, preliminary action, but some sort of action, because it's not right to. And I thank you so much for being so honest and just telling the employees, because they need to know. Everybody needs to know. I need to know. Vice Mayor needs to know. We all need to know. And so when do you expect those results back?
Julio was about, they said next week sometime.
Yeah, next week sometime.
They collected them yesterday, and we're hoping to have the results next week sometime.
I mean, I don't know how my colleagues feel about some sort of temporary evacuation, but it's a serious thing. So I'll just let that be said for now with that. Thank you.
Okay, so why don't we start back from the beginning, and we'll work up the way through.
Mr. Vice Chair, I'd like to make a comment on the City Hall as well, since we started at that point. I agree, that's one of the things, I mentioned that I'd like to have a workshop last year sometime, that we should sit down and talk about, the options for City Hall to make a decision. So I agree with the Vice Mayor and Councilwoman Waldman that I think that, we need to address this issue and we need to make a decision one way or another. The only thing I would say, though, or I guess discuss, is that prior to a workshop, in order to make sure that the workshop is as effective as possible, I think it would be good to have actual information or some sort of study or some sort of facts and figures so that when we're doing the analysis, we have something to go on, unless the idea is to have an initial workshop where we discuss generally and then give direction and come back secondarily to say, okay, what are our options, and now we need to make the decision. Because I don't want to see where we have a one workshop and it ends up being all about the politics of it, because this is and has been a hot topic issue in the past. I would like this to be an actual dialogue where we discuss not only the politics of it, the policy of it, but also the cost of it, the consolidation aspect of it, the health and safety aspect. I think that the more information we have, the more effective our decision making will be, so that we can actually make this decision on all factors and not just on conjecture. And so that would be my only statement I would make regarding an upcoming workshop, is that whether we want to direct staff to actually go ahead and do some sort of analysis initially, or whether we just want to have a workshop as a front, knowing that we should have a second workshop to follow it up with actual information once we give direction to staff.
Well, excuse me, I agree with you, and I think we should look at all the consolidation and things, as Councilman Shelley said, but I think we should also look at what financial options are out there. If we pay up front, do we let somebody build it and we lease it back from them? Or whatever other options are maybe out there available. I think that those need to be presented at that time also. And I understand you can't do it overnight, and it's going to take a few days, but, give us as many options, because I think the more options and the more decisions we could make that night, going whichever way they may be, and there may not even be, we may sit down and there's 4 votes that say we don't want to do it. Or there may be, and then we all go home. But there may be 4 that say, yes, we want to do it. So I think the more decisions that can be made that night as far as options as financing, consolidating, how does the design still fit today? I mean, it was done 5 or 6 years ago. Is it still the optimal design? Do we need to tweak things or things like that? And if, we make sure we have somebody to review the plans before we start this thing again and say, here's what you can do, here's what you couldn't do. You could bring the police department in over here, for space management and things like that. I think that if we have the more information we have at our meeting, I think the better off we're going to be as far as moving things forward. Otherwise, like Councilman Shelley said, we'll have the meeting, we'll be back and have another meeting, and 3 years from now, whoever's sitting up here is still going, what are we doing?
Vice Mayor.
Yes, ma'am.
Would it be possible, would my colleagues agree that we should instruct the city manager to at least look into some temporary quarters until the levels do come down? I mean, so that we will have that at the workshop, so that we don't have to...
Well, I think he should bring us a cost and what,
Options.
the option, what options do we have? Can we move any staff over to another building that's not, does Rick have any room over there for a department to go over there? The problem is that all these departments have everything here and they go downstairs to get stuff, which I guess is not being done right now, but with their computers and all. But
I think portables we should look into, just as a temporary thing.
So, I think that's a smart thing to show that we are being proactive on it and that we care, and let's see what it does from there.
Mr. Vice Mayor?
Yes. Mr. Maldonado.
Would like to ask for maybe like a number. I think in Vice Mayor had mentioned it, and what I'd like to see some type of report giving us, all the numbers from the different departments, with like upgrading the lobby, upgrading City Hall, and have all those numbers kind of total out to see.
Yeah, we wouldn't be able to, anything in terms of cost estimates, even whether it's repairing or new build, would all involve hiring a consultant and have them do that work, because the remediation efforts, they're specialists, so we need to hire, if we're going on the course of remediation, that's one thing. If we're going towards new build, then we want to look at it, somebody that understands what it is to build a city hall and what the standards are. And so what we could do is come back to you with, some sort of a consultancy contract for somebody.
Thank you. Mr. Shelley.
Yeah, Mr. Vice Mayor, in regards to the portables and the direction, I mean, the report we got was very technical in nature, and so some of those things we can kind of read and understand what it said, but what I have no problem giving direction to staff and the city manager to make whatever decision you feel is necessary for the safety and welfare of our employees, and if that includes getting portables or some sort of temporary office space, I support that. So.
I just would like to add, I would support that option also. I spent a lot of time here this summer having meetings and meeting with the ladies in my office, and the days that I was here for 5 hours or more, I left here and I was out. In fact, I remember distinctly when I was meeting with Carlos Perez in our CDBG, I started to feel ill. You probably didn't notice it because I was fighting it.
Carlos has a way of getting
Just
kidding.
And when I left here, I was out for about 5 days. I was out sick for about 5 days. So I don't know if the fact that I was here at City Hall attributed to that, but I can tell you it was a rough summer for me, and I've never been this sick in my life.
I think it's Carlos.
Well, that was just one meeting, but the other meetings were... So I would definitely support
interestingly enough, we have plenty of employees that tell the same stories here, and so I think it's a real concern.
Yeah, so that's a big concern for me. And I agree with my colleagues up here. We really need to sit down and have a conversation about City Hall as opposed to spending all of these funds, repairing and patching. We have to be fiscally responsible. And if we're not going to have a City Hall, okay, spend the money, but if we are, then to me it doesn't make sense to continue to repair the building.
Add on one more thing in my request of list of things that I would like to see brought to us that night of the meeting is an approximation of what this property is worth to this on the going market, to a retailer or to whoever, an office building or whatever it would be, and I'm not looking for an exact figure, and I know the market.
Highest best use.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. What can we do? And I mean, I know that in the past this was marketed to different conventions, as a possibility, and maybe those reports still lay around somewhere.
In the basement.
Yeah. Well, we can get on our Oompa Loompa suits and go down there. But, I think that would be something that would be helpful in the discussion is what is this property worth to whomever might show up. So.
And as Mayor,
Yes.
I just say one last thing. I would even be open to listening to any proposals if there's any people out there who have ideas as to, I know we have to go out for a bid for all of this, but it'd be interesting to see if there's any proposals out there, if that's all right with my colleagues.
Sure.
Why waste time?
So I think that takes care of the City Hall aspect of tonight's presentation, but do you want to roll?
While you're on that topic, did you want to have anything more to say on police as well? Should we be, if we have...
They look like they're doing good over there.
Is that something a joint use or two buildings, or do you
No,
want
I
us to
think
look at
that's
it?
something that should be proposed when we do the meeting.
Okay.
Is there space available for them, the chief and whomever, or the experts sit down, the architects and whomever, is there space available in there for them? If not, is there something that we can build onto there that would give them sufficient space for however many square footage they believe they need and for their facilities and things like that?
Sure. Okay.
Mr. Vice Chair.
Councilwoman Waltman first.
I just wanted to say I agree with Mrs. Fairclough McCormick that, in my opinion, I think that we should put aside the customer service lobby, all the other projects that you have here until we have this workshop, because to me, it's redundant to talk about things like this if that's not going to be our
So is it fair to say then anything related to City Hall renovations, whether it's the chairs, whether it's the customer service, everything should be held aside until you decide first what you're doing with City Hall? If that makes, that's good direction for us if...
I think until after we have a discussion about City Hall, we see where we're going to go, the other projects should be on hold.
It helps me also answer any of you or your constituents who say, well, why is customer service look so lousy? Well, we're trying to figure out the City Hall thing first. So if that's the direction, then that's fine. Anything, any projects that we went through for the current, for the next year that you'd like to take off the list? You'd like to, I know the stage was one thing. I know the Roby George are you comfortable with what we're proposing? Some of you had some certain projects that you're interested in, so now would be a good time to react.
Okay, through the chair?
Yes.
With the, where is it? Wait, give me 1 second. With the community center, the senior center, with that project, that was for the stage. Have we considered trying to revamp the acoustics in there? Because it's very difficult to hear in there when guests
Dennis,
are presenting.
Is that part of the project?
That was also part of the price for sound system and also a stage, which was removable. That was brought up by council, so we did get that too.
Okay, so that will be included.
So the 11,853 includes the acoustic issue?
Yes, yes, sir.
Okay.
Mr. Vice Chair?
Yes.
Okay, me? Or Mr. Shut? Me? Okay. I was a part of the original design of the community center, really hands-on with it. And the original design had a stage. Hulu, do you remember? And Dennis? It had an actual stage. And, we had plans that we could put on plays. We could actually, fashion shows. I mean, it was really so much more than this little stage that you're proposing. So for a few dollars more, I'd rather have a real stage so that we can actually have productions. We can have, and it was a good point about the sound, Ms. Fairclough McCormick, because that's definitely a problem. But a stage is very important, and I think that would allow us to utilize that room, and we would get it back and rent time and time again. That's just my personal
If
opinion.
there's consensus for us to look at a larger stage, that's fine. We just wanted to get some direction one way or the other. Are you comfortable with the smaller option, or would you like for us to cost that? The larger one was, Dennis, did you have a ballpark figure on that?
No, I did not look into that option, but we still have the plans of the original community center. I can look that up and get a cost estimate on what we could do on that.
We have plans, see, so it wouldn't be
We still have plans on
hard
that.
to do that.
I would be in favor of that. I remember when we first saw that, excuse me, I kind of just put it in, but, there was supposed to be, I guess, a stage, so we went in there, it was a beautiful place, but no stage where we could, go in and have our point of vantage view once we're there, whether we had, I think, when I had my education summit there, it's kind of tables, we have to set up our own system, own little stage there, so I would be in favor in seeing that.
Okay, so we'll...
Comments again on that?
Yeah, Mr. Vice Chair. Yeah, as far as in relation to the stage, I agree. I think that it would be good to have a bigger stage. The only thing I would like to at least take into account is I think it's good to actually have the stage that can retract or so you can leave that space open. That's the only concern I have with a bigger, say, permanent stage. But I like the idea of a bigger stage. So if you can look at both of those options, is there a way to have a large stage that can still accommodate the plays, et cetera, but it is somehow collapsible or movable, or you can take it apart, put it together, so that you can have as many options as possible with that space. And then my second, question, comment with regards to the acoustic issue. And when you say that you're dealing with the acoustic, is that just additional speakers, or is that actual rubber mats hanging from the ceiling? When you talk about addressing the acoustics, what are you implying?
What we were looking at, Councilman, was the activity room at the senior center part of it. We had the 4 speakers, so we would put 2 in the front and 2 in the back so you can hear. We could get Music Depot to give us a surround sound. It'll probably be more, but I can look at that option too. The stage size that I looked at, there was all different kinds of stage sizes you can go with, like you said, to remove. We can look at both of them. We can look at a permanent and a larger stage. And then I can look at these speakers were just going to be on the stands in the back and in the front. Then it could be removed.
And I just want
I'm sorry.
If I can follow up with the acoustic issue, then I'm done.
Sure.
And I was going to ask you a question for my colleague, Councilwoman Fairclough McCormick. And I haven't actually, I don't think I've sat in the audience there listening to a speaker with a system set up. Was it the sound not being loud enough, or was it an actual echo effect where you? And so that's what the extra speakers is. I don't think is going to necessarily help the echo unless the speakers are right next to the listener. So I think it's going to be more of an acoustic issue with all that open space and the reflective objects of the wood. And so there may be some sort of an acoustic issue there.
And this is one of those. What you're seeing now on the slide is the patch job version.
Sure, sure.
It doesn't address the echo. It doesn't address when the HVAC system comes on. It's a whole different dynamic. So I don't think we've really looked at, if you're looking for a real high quality, we've addressed all the sound issues, we're going to have to go back and really price it out because it's going to be substantially more than this. So a larger stage, substantially more, sound substantially more. This is Dennis's way of trying to meet you halfway, but will it be the A+ version? Not for $11,853. So if you'd like, if the direction is go back and look at the more, the more high-tech solutions, we'd be happy to do that. Is that the direction?
Yes.
Okay, good.
I like to bring up the park.
Aha! I didn't know. I had no idea.
And I'm kind of bringing this because unfortunately I have to run off, but I know that I just want to say about the park. Oh, I'm trying to see what's that. But anyways, we've seen it. I mentioned this park in the past, and I know there's a few different options that we have on the table that we're looking at. I know Dennis is, and I tell him to make sure he looks at all options that are on the table right now from other lands that are going to be donated as to the lands that we purchase ourselves. What I do want to put in is that as I look at Homestead as a whole, obviously, the west side of Homestead has all the parks. We finally just got the Roscoe Warren Park up. And, we know that the funding a lot came from, the mitigation of the Humpty Dumpty Park. And I think that somewhere along the line we felt, I don't know if the ball was dropped or what happened, where, there was no green space thought of, for this side of Homestead. All the parks seem to be far away from us, and for the most part, we do drive them, but it would be great if we could just run to a park. So I kind of initiated the original idea for a park, and I bring that because many of the residents had always asked, what can we get a park over here? The rest of Homestead seems to have one, so I just want to bring this up for discussion. And I know that McCormick also kind of falls within this category because you're kind of in the middle. You have all that space there, and then you figure there should be a park somewhere there. So I'm willing, to open up for discussion, whether it's something that's in between both of us or something around, that area. So I just kind of want to bring that up. See if I get support for the park.
Not to disagree with you, but I've been working on this for many, many years, and the hospital, it's time, I guess, for me to make it public. I've been working with the hospital for a couple of years, asking the hospital to donate some land to us. We have a formal proposal in now for 5 acres that we're asking the hospital to donate. I thought that would be close enough to facilitate oasis. And we have East Lake and Northgate as well. So it's not just Waterstone, it's all that area. If you put a little pin on all the areas where we have parks, we have Roscoe Warren Park all the way over on Palm Drive. We have a very passive little park in Audubon Park, but there's no bathrooms. I mean, it's just a passive little park. And then we have nothing. We have nothing. So, I mean, as much as I respect Waterstone, I'm trying to, my goal was to try to facilitate that whole area, everything, this side of North Canal Drive. So I talked to the hospital tonight, right before I got here. The deal is definitely not dead. It's almost like, we just have to find a way that we need to do it. That would be a really wonderful thing if we can get 5 acres. Of course, we'll settle with 3 acres or whatever. But I think that would be a wonderful park, and that would facilitate Waterstone right there.
It would be close to...
Oasis would be right across the way, East Lake and the other. But and again, no disrespect, but I would also like you to look for land, like I said, from that area, from North Carolina Drive over, because that opens the opportunities for us to find a parcel of land, and just as a backup. Because if we can get that land donated, and the hospital is really, especially Homestead Hospital, is really working hard to do that, because not only would it facilitate our citizens, it would also facilitate the children that go to the hospital and play, and they already have a wonderful walking path there. That's that environmental thing. I'm coughing here. So, but I just think that we need to keep that aside, that money, but let's all keep our fingers crossed and continue to work forward, hopefully with the hospital, and hopefully they'll make that generous donation to us. So I agree, we need something over there, definitely.
Just for clarification, that's why I mentioned that we're open to any other, because I know there's other issues on the table, which is this. Have they discussed anything in the length? Is it a lease, or is it they're going to give us a piece of property, or is it a lease?
It would be a long-term lease.
Long-term
Like
lease.
99 years. I mean, that's what we would be. We haven't done the it hasn't been, again, this has not been solidified, but I was told tonight that it is definitely very alive and well, waiting for someone to get back from vacation, and Dennis is working on it, David's working on it, I've called George in on it, and Bill DeCat is our biggest advocate, so we're certainly going to continue to pursue that.
Okay, so if it's the will of the council, we'll leave the $500,000 in there for land acquisition. If a donation comes, it comes, but we'll keep the $500,000. That comes from impact fees. The second phase of this, which is the development cost, that's the unfunded part. So assuming we get to the land acquisition stage and we're either coming in to accept a donation from the hospital or purchase a piece of property, at that point we'll need to discuss whether we finance the development of it or what the plan would be. So, okay, so if that's the will of the council, that's what we'll do.
I support the park. I think that, it was one of the things when, I was campaigning over in the Waterstone Oasis area years ago. That was one of the things that they kept asking for, and that was, a park over there that they don't have one. And so I wholeheartedly support finding a way to put a park over there on that side to service Oasis and Waterstone and those communities.
When you're in Waterstone, you can call it the Waterstone Park, and when you're in Oasis, you can call it the Oasis Park.
Or we'll call it the Homestead Hospital, the Homestead Hospital Park.
Actually, that was my question, like, okay, is it going to be community-specific? Because it says the Waterstone Park. So how are we going to do that?
And I think, I think for clarification, I think it's just more that the Waterstone residents, being the ones that are longer been the ones been echoing it, but now that Oasis has come up,
we can change the label to New Park.
Soon.
New Park?
Yeah, Eastside Park.
Well, if the hospital donates this land, I'm going to have news for you. It's not going to be the Eastside Park. It's probably going to be the Homestead Hospital, City of Homestead Park.
We'll label it New Park for now.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other projects that caught your attention? Something you want on the list, off the list, something we missed, something not enough?
Looking at the police equipment.
Okay.
Cameras, I think that those are a good tool. If there's any way to move those forward with other people, I think that they become very useful. Police cameras, they've got them up there, the dash cameras.
Traffic.
I'm assuming that, for DUI stops and things like that, I'm assuming that that's what their main intention is, and is for our traffic units and stuff. And I think that it's time that we move to the next step. You see more traffic cams or dash cams and stuff that end up being your biggest evidence in a lot of cases. And I think that it would be very helpful to the police and to everybody around here. So I would like to see those move forward if possible. Yes?
If I could just chime in there, I also just seen, I don't know if you guys, it's a question to the chief or maybe or Bell if he's here. There's also these cameras that I kind of saw where they're actually on officers themselves. You know, there was actually a part where it was a shooting or something but it was all captured from 3 different angles. We're totally justified, so it's actually built right off of, it goes alongside of, I guess where they put the radio. Just an option if you've looked at that. You know, it's one of those alternatives. The cameras are smaller and just as effective. Just a question, if you guys looked at it, besides just car cams. Car cams only capture what's in front of you.
One other question I had to the chief is, on the swap mobile, perhaps we could get some statistics as to how many call-outs they do and things like that, so that we could see the justification, if there is one, for the expenditure. And I see Captain Kent back there writing things down, but just, you know, a lot of people don't know how many times a week they go out and ride around in that U-Haul truck and jump out of it. And don't have proper protection when they pull up. I mean, we laugh because they're in the back of a U-Haul truck, but they don't have the proper protection when they, and I've ridden behind them because I'm not going to ride in the truck, but I've ridden behind them, and you see these guys, they're hanging on for dear life riding around in the back of a U-Haul truck, which leaves us exposed also in the long run. So perhaps if we could get some statistics available and sent to us as to what Sergeant Becker and his guys do over there, and how many times a week or daily or whatever they jump out of the truck and things like that.
Well, we'll get that to you, Vice Mayor. As a matter of fact, I know we probably do 1 every week, and sometimes we do 2 a week, which is the reason why we don't have, you know, in all honesty, that many drug holes in the city of Homestead. We're very proactive when you're dealing with drugs in the city of Homestead.
Right.
But I appreciate that because we definitely need it, and it's a safety issue. We don't think about it until something happens. And the one that we had, it's long overdue. So we always think about safety first, and the second thing is that keeping that kind of activity out of the city of Homestead. So appreciate that, and we'll get the numbers to you.
Yes, ma'am.
I thought I was going to be able to leave, but I can't. There's before. But if I go ahead and do what I was going to do, I wanted to go back to parks. One thing that we talked about over and over and over, and that is lights for soccer. And it's just something that we need to at least put on the table, at least discuss a little bit or think about. You know, we have the baseball fields that are lit, but we don't have any soccer fields that are lit. So that's something, I mean, I'm particularly interested in, but I don't know if the rest of the councilors are not. I have several items, so if you want to start.
I know I'm very interested in fact, myself and Councilman Shelley, the last 2 years in a row, spoke to Musco, which I guess is like the leading light company out there as far as doing things. And I believe they've sent us some proposals down there, have they not, Dennis? Or had preliminary discussions?
When they first came out, when the park was designed, Vice Mayor, they did give a proposal that was $1.5 million.
So that's a lot of money, but I mean, I feel like I owe it to the kids to bring that up. Another thing that I get constant comments is shade for the dog park, over and over and over and over. Pardon?
I know all about it every day.
So I'm just telling you that even though we've planted the trees and even though we've done, you know, environmentally what we can do, I'm just telling you, it's something. I can't go to the grocery store, I can't go anywhere that I don't hear shade in the dog park. So that's something. And I got a couple more.
Councilwoman Waldman, I got a price on that. It's $54,000 for the shade structures over the benches.
And this is all the purpose of a discussion on capital projects. Many of these projects, again, $200-some-odd million worth, many of which we don't have funding for. This would be one where we can either add it to the to-be program list, or we can subtract some of the other projects to try to deal with that, and/or if you want to be ambitious, financing is always an option.
Another thing, Vice Mayor, this big building for after-school program and summer camp. I personally don't want to be in the business of running an after-school program. I think that there's a lot of responsibility, and I also think it takes away from the schools and from the private entities that have qualified teachers and counselors to help children with homework, and I don't want to be in competition with our local businesses. The summer program, I think, is great that we run. You know, I'd say the majority of our kids are employees. So perhaps when we do a new city hall, maybe we could look at something there as well. I don't know how we would handle that. But I've always felt that, you know, maybe we could go into agreement with FOP or some other structures that we have in town and run a summer camp. But that's, I mean, I just want my colleagues to know that as far as aftercare program during the school year, I just would rather leave that up to our wonderful teachers and schools in the area to run their own aftercare programs. And then my last one, well, no, I have two more.
On this one, do we leave this one on the list? Do we take it off? What's the consensus?
I think at this particular point in time, and
Would you
it's a
mind
removal for me.
Would you mind giving Dennis a little opportunity to plug his program?
I really love talking to you.
Do I have any choice? He's already talking.
Thank you, Vice Mayor, appreciate it. The reason why we looked at that is that we had 2 spaces left at the Mayor Roscoe Warren Park. And the one area that we were looking at is where the splash pad was going. We thought, since we had summer camp before, and we had it ever since I've known, being a city employee, we had it at the Parks and Rec Department, is that since we lost it with LA, it was asked by the community, why aren't you having summer camp? We didn't have a facility. So we did work it out with Keysgate Charter School to use their facility, and I thought maybe this would be a good idea to have it at the park. Since it's so big, it had plenty of rooms for the kids. And we also were looking at that we can also have it as a rental for facility for parties and stuff like that. And if we ever got into a problem where the community asked us for an after-school program, at least we have a facility. And that's why we just put it under CIP. So if you ask us not to look into it, we'll let it go, and we can use this money elsewhere.
Dennis, the whole $700,000 is impact fees?
The impact fees, yes.
What was that? I missed that last part. You said it was funded by impact
The
fees?
full $700,000 is funded by impact fees, so if you opted not to do this, then whatever that $700,000 would be designated for, I guess, anything that falls within the impact fees category.
Yeah, I was going to say, what else could it be used for then? I mean, because if we're taking it off of this project, if we're limited by what we can reallot the monies to, that's something I guess I want to know, so I know whether or not the other project is more worthy or less worthy.
Well, right now, I mean, you guys are looking at maybe the shade structures. We could put some of that money towards that at the dog park. We also, the lights, that's $1.5 million, but we also can look at that at the new Waterstone Park. We can use them funds there. I mean, at least we'll have the impact fees there to help us out.
Okay. And so I guess my next question, though, is as far as why for our summer camp and things, is one of the reasons that the residents like to go to our summer camp, are we cheaper than the other summer camp options? Is that one of the benefits of our city camp, or is it just that we have, a better programming and staff?
To let you know, this year was the highest we ever went, because with the agreement with Keysgate, we couldn't be competitive against them. They're at $90, so we kept it at $90. Usually we're $65 to $70, and we also get a food grant. We serve lunch. A lot of camps don't. So, I mean, I think that they like the atmosphere, the field trips that we do, and the arts and crafts that we have. Plus, we take them, swimming and other field trips we do.
Okay. Because the reason I asked the question is that, to me, if there aren't other options out there that are cost efficient for our residents, then I think it's good for the city to have those functions and to have that function and maintain that function, so that the summer camp is open to all parties. I mean, I think that's a good part of it. However, as far as building a building for that purpose, I don't know that I'm sold on it, especially if, I think lights is very important. I was going to comment on that later, but, I do think the idea of these soccer lights, I hear that more than I can imagine, that people want soccer lights. or field lights for a soccer field. So I think, again, that's something that would be important, that if we could take the money and put it toward that, would probably be a better project. But also, I'd like to see, can we look at our other facilities? I mean, we have the YMCA, we have all these other people that we might could partner with and try to work out some sort of deal to use their facility or otherwise subsidize or whatever the case might be to make sure our residents still have the ability to take advantage of these programs.
I know the YMCA does have a summer program. We can maybe, talk to the new director. They just got a new director there in the Homestead YMCA. Maybe we can, work with them to see maybe they can work with city employees or make sure we notify them the list of people that we do have, because we got that, and maybe they can work with them. But we'll be glad to work with them.
Or somehow give our residents, city residents, a discounted rate or something, or whatever would have been equivalent to what we would have charged, and work something out. So I think I'd rather us go that route and then readdress this later if that's not an option.
That's fine.
Vice Mayor, if I may?
Yes, ma'am.
While we're on parks, I'm glad to see that the Roby George Park renovations are on there. This is a top priority for me. Having frequented the park several times, I just feel as if we need to bring this park to the standards that our other parks are on. And if I won't convince you of my words, I just ask my colleagues to take a tour of the park, and then you'll understand why this is a project that ranks to the top of my list. So I would be very appreciative if my colleagues would support this item.
What's the cost on that one again?
Well, the first one is it's the restrooms, locker rooms, and resurfacing the pools is $90,000, and then you have the picnic benches, the chairs, and the receptacles, trash receptacles, $16,000, and then the solar beams are $26,000, and then we have $10,000 for the signage change to conversion. There's this huge logo there which we can leave, to save the $10,000. Dennis, do you want to talk to this?
When I got the direction that Parks and Rec was going to take over Roby George and FICO Williams, I did a walkthrough. There were some things like the signs. They are a very large logo, and they go on top of the roof of the Roby George Pavilion there. So they are a very large logo. That's why the price is up on that. And the amenities, we noticed that a lot of kids were sitting waiting for basketball on the ground, so we thought maybe we'd put benches inside the pavilion where they can, sit and wait for the next game, and also picnic tables underneath the pavilion and more trash cans, and then to renovate the locker room.
I would be, in the renovations and things like that, the signage and the beams, I would like to see those held off, and let's take care of the more vital things that are used every day and stuff over there, and as we move forward. I mean, that's my feeling.
Vice Mayor. Vice Mayor.
Yes, ma'am.
As we all know, we just inherited these parks back from the police, and I think Roby George is just a diamond in the rough. I mean, the only public swimming pool that we have here in the city of Homestead, and it's heated, right? And I mean, it's amazing. I go over there all the time just to look around, and it's the only covered basketball area. So that's to me, that's just amazing, and I do believe it is a diamond in the rough, and I think it's going to be a gem. I have no problem with what Vice Mayor just said about holding off on some of the things that are cosmetic or whatever, but getting the rest of it brought up to speed, I think, is very important. And can't we use impact fees there as well?
Yes, some of this is impact fees, and some of this falls under the budget, the general budget for next year. So some of it will be picked up. The ones that you see here are impact fees, yes. Vice Mayor, I really didn't understand your thing. You want to hold off on some things, or the solar beams, or
I think like the solar beams and the signage, I think we could hold off on them until we can, let's take care of the more important, the bigger things that are used every day by the kids. If a sign isn't perfectly painted, then, and if solar beams is needed, then show me why. Don't just tell me we have a little bit of vandalism. Bring me some statistics that show that we've had 14 benches broken this month. We had 3 windows smashed out. I want to see why we're purchasing these things. The more information I get, I try to make a little better call on things. And I'm not saying that they should have been in the package tonight. What I'm saying is, you know, if the other council members, it's the will of them, then I am requesting as to why do we need them? What is the statistics that says we need to put up this solar beam for protection over there? What is the problem? And then I look at the chief and I say, well, can we step up the patrols over there a little bit and see if we can help? And I know that he goes, well, my guys are there and this and that, and they sneak in under dark and all that, but...
So for direction purposes, are we taking this one off the list, or are we coming back to you with more information?
No, I think the consensus was to move it forward, leaving the solar beam and the signage out at this particular time. Am I correct?
Yes.
Okay, and Mr. Vice Mayor, just...
So of the slides, just to clarify, the 90,000 for the pools, that stays on the list? For the locker rooms,
the benches, the
16,000 for the amenities, and that's it? Correct. Okay. And
Yes,
then
Dennis had a question. Yes, Dennis.
Just to let you know, the signage that are there now is police signage. So it's police signage. It's a safe neighborhood park. So that's why we had to change the signage to the city of Homestead. It has the police signage on it. That's why we looked at putting the city logo on it. The other thing, the reason why, when I did the walk around, and I'm pretty sure the chief can talk about it, is that we do get a lot of vandalism there. We painted the concession stand, and the next day it was graffitied. We also had things where they took the windscreen off the fence. So that's what we were looking at security.
Okay, then explain the solar beam to me. It sets off a signal, it goes to the police department, and they send somebody out there.
Correct.
It's the same solar beam system that we have that guarded our copper wire down there?
Yes, sir, it's the same solar beam.
I don't want it.
Okay, so I think we got, the direction on that.
Mr. Vice Mayor, just real quick on those were funded, right? They were planned to be funded for the fiscal year, the items we just removed?
Yes.
So, I mean, that's an extra almost $50,000 some now that we have, correct, to reallocate?
It's 26 plus 36, because the signage was 10, and then it was 26 for the beams, so that's 36. And then what about FICO Williams? Same thing for them as well, or?
If I may?
Yes, ma'am.
I got my fingers in all these papers, I can't look anymore, but I know FICO Williams, just the other day, Dennis, we were talking about using some of their chairs and stuff, and I mean, it's looking kind of, it needs a facelift. It needs to be freshened up with some paint. I'm not saying it has to cost a lot of money, but it just needs to be freshened up on the inside.
We put that item in the budget to repaint FICO Williams.
And what about the chairs?
The chairs, we are looking at to replace some of the chairs too. It is in the budget for this year for Roby George and FICO Williams for painting and that. That's not a CIP item.
Okay.
So that's why you don't see them items in there.
Because it doesn't cost $5,000.
But the reason I was asking too, pointing out that we have the $50-something thousand to now reallocate, is that, you know, now we can possibly look at doing the shade structure for the dog park, because we now have found money, so to speak. So again, while we're allocating priorities, unless something else comes up, if those monies are now available, that is a way of, that is something that I think would be good for our residents.
So then to clarify, you want us to add to the list the shade structure?
Well, to keep things simple so we're not here till 12 o'clock tonight, I think the thing we should do is go through the list that was presented to us, and if you guys don't like my idea, tell me. I don't care. People told me they don't like things I say all the time. Let's knock off what's there, what we want, and what we don't want. Find out George and his staff can go back through, find out how much monies are left over, and then we go back to our wish list or add-on things. But I think for tonight, to keep this simple and to keep it moving, instead of trying to add things on, and if you have a different suggestion, then tell me. But let's take care of what they presented tonight, and it's not on the list, then we go back and we find out, okay, Carlos comes back and goes, we've got $4 million that we eliminated from the list tonight. What do you want to do?
So you're going to send us individually your lists, or how's that going to work mechanically? You're going to have a...
Oh, you got to ask.
I know, I just...
Well, I think when we come back for our final approval of this list, which I'm assuming we're going to do.
As part of the budget process, when the budget is released, as part of the budget is also the capital improvement plan. So if there's something specific that you've already decided you don't want to discuss again, when we submit the budget, we won't include these items. So for example, on signage, if you're definitive about signage and solar beams, it'd be easier to take those off the list, so that when we submit it, you don't have to discuss it again.
Right.
Vice Mayor.
But on the other hand, if you want to discuss it again, then we won't take anything off the list, and we'll just submit it as is.
Whatever the consensus is.
Well, if I could just, I mean, I'm going to be very frank here, and that is that I'm not an engineer. I'm looking at Julio over there. I'm not an engineer. I don't know this stuff, you know, and I know in order for us to, you know, we're very lucky this year keeping our taxes down and keeping our services the same, but I know it's not going to continue to do that unless something drastic changes in our economy. So I get it that we have to be on a budget, and I get it that we can't have everything we want. So my opinion would be, for me, speaking only for myself, if Julio on the engineering side thought if we can get it away without having to have it, great. But if you feel we need it, great. So, and on his side of the stuff. As far as Barbara goes, I mean, yeah, I'd like to have a whole new power plant and all those other stuff. But to me, if we need it, we really need it, then I would leave it up to you and your staff to come back to us and give us your recommendation. I'm looking at this trailer here, this gutted insulated trailer. I'd say we need it because it's bad. You know, I mean, the line crew office improvements is $5,000. I'd say we need it, but I don't know how we could sit here and say yes, we need a roll of rope, or yes, we need this, or yes, we need that. But I just know we all need to know we're on a budget.
Okay.
Got it?
Here's what I'm going to do. We're going to go back. We're going to start an agenda management system, which is what I wanted to do 45 minutes ago. We're going to go to that screen, and we're going to work through it page by page, please. I'm tired of jumping from one department to the other while everybody's going.
Mr. Vice Mayor, one quick comment, though, before we start. And that would just be back to the original idea of whether we add or don't add items. And the reason, my understanding is that we will not have this conversation again, that if we wanted to add something or fund some other different item, if there's money left over after we go through the list, as we're starting to do, that now would be the time to have that discussion, because we will not have a forum per se where we go over all this stuff again. If the next time we see this will be in number format on a line item budget that we would then have to either pull or add, correct?
Or, won't we all have our individual meetings where you could say we found there's $300,000?
But we won't have a public
We can do it any way you want. So we're prepared to sit tonight till midnight if you want to go through each one. We're prepared to meet with you individually as many times as you want. We're prepared to meet with you as a group as many times as you want, or we're prepared not to meet with you at all.
My purpose is just trying to figure out the most efficient way, because if we have the individual meetings, if we have the individual meetings with the manager, we still will not have a public discussion to know whether four of us want an item to go forward, where tonight we can make that decision, there's four of us here, and off we go. But I agree with you, let's go down the list first, but then I think tonight would be the night to possibly add something to the list and then be done with the whole thing.
Agenda management system. Is there a staff report that tells me, other than updating and making this a more speedy thing for them and a more efficient? Is that the sales? It makes them.
The application is part of your PDF. That's where the backup material is, but also Elizabeth is here if you'd like to get more information. Elizabeth?
Okay, this system, it makes the workflow smoother for getting the items together.
I say yes.
I'm in agreement. Mr. Kelly? Okay. Well, this is going good so far. Thank you.
Keep it up. Because I've got 2 more hours of meeting.
Record management system. I think until we find out if we're even allowed to touch the records downstairs, there may be a lot more to this than that, or would this all be done regardless of what we find out?
The hope would be that we can keep it on the list, recognizing that we're going to have to come back to you with a more comprehensive plan anyway, which could be, look, if you said we're abandoning the building and we're going to go into a new space, and I mean, it wouldn't make
we can't take these with us anyway.
So there's a lot of different options, but we definitely want to have something in the CIP that recognizes that we're going to have to start chipping away at this problem.
I'm in favor. Anybody else? Okay. Thank you. They're smiling. Where did I go? Which way did I go?
Council chamber chairs.
In my eyes, we hold off. I mean, we've got a lot of other discussions and stuff.
Okay?
All right. Automated planning administrator.
This is basically, it takes all of your documents, and it kind of this would entail the development of a computer program which would enable a user to type an address, locate a property on an aerial. Then by using a GIS platform, check any number of items in the area. Most particularly, someone should be able to pull both the land use and the zoning maps for the location. By clicking on the map color, the program would directly reference the code. An additional step would include the program evaluating the user's request and submitting a simple land use and zoning report. And one of the things that came up with the whole thing of the fee for the water and the sewer, the reimbursement packages, the system didn't allow for, when an applicant comes in and says, geez, I'm thinking of buying this property, there was nothing in there that told them, oh, by the way, if you buy this property and before you can develop, you're going to have to pay what you owe for the hookups. So this
We would have saved a whole lot.
That's the concept here.
Let me ask you this, can they also have liens onto that? So if somebody pulls up a piece of property, they'll be able to show a lien or whatever?
You can attach everything.
Okay. So as we build the program, we can make sure that it encompasses whatever we want.
And as you can see from, it's a staggered cost, so they're not sure how much they can do in a particular year. If we could front-end the project, it would just take more staff hours of somebody to come in and help them input all the data. And then the companion to that is the website, and this is envisioned that all planning and zoning, plans, permitting, business tax receipts, applications, rules and regulations, timeframes, handbooks would be automated and placed on the website. The applicants could potentially access the website and make applications and pay fees online. And so that's the concept here of really automating your whole function.
Well, in lieu of some problems that have arisen over the last few years, I'm in favor of something like this. I mean, we just saved the money already. Thank you.
Great.
Planning website?
Same thing. They're two pieces. They're basically, the first piece is for the internal operation, and the second piece is for the website.
Any comments? Yes. Okay. Where did I go?
Homestead Plaza would be next.
Well, they got me stapled upside down here. What do you want me to do? That's all right. I guess this would be Ken giving us a little...
So replace the antiquated underground facilities at the Homestead Plaza located on south side of Campbell Drive from Northeast 1st to Northeast 3rd Avenue. Installation of modern switching cabinets and above-ground connection boxes, as well as a more efficient facility design will improve the system reliability in the zone. And Ken, you've been having problems.
Yeah, we have been having, we've got some connection boxes that are actually located underground there. And every time we have really heavy rains, they flood. We've had numerous outages there. We've also got some old cable there that we've replaced in conjunction with this and looped the system.
I'm going to trust you on this one because when it comes to electric, the only thing I know is it hurts when I plug in the wrong way. So if it's hampering our service and system, then I'm in favor of it. Mr. Shelley? Okay.
Land acquisition. This is acquiring land for future electrical substation while land prices are relatively low. Typical substation footprint is about a half an acre, and that's the plan.
And I guess my one question, we're looking at the east side of town then for a second?
North.
North side.
I definitely say yes to this because prices are low and now's the time if we're going to buy. I definitely say yes to them.
Mr. Shelley?
Line crew office.
I say yes.
It looks good.
This will be two phases. The first one is tables, chairs, file cabinets, floors, walls. So actually the first project is the tables, chairs, and the file cabinets. The next step would be floors, walls, and lockers, but that would be a second phase. Mini excavator. basically digging up the underground for electrical facilities which require repair and replacement. They're sharing the equipment, and it's kind of the sharing is getting in their way.
Shelley?
I have no idea. I'll say yes if you say yes.
This one here is moving the existing 13 kV primary distribution line from separate poles to underbuilt on existing 138 kV transmission line, southwest 187th Avenue from southwest 328th Street to northwest 7th Street.
I guess my first question is, you said that the lines were put on the wrong side of the pole, so how did that ever happen?
When the distribution line was existing, and when they built the transmission line was actually supposed to go in line with the distribution. Because of some right-of-way issues, it had to move out closer to the road, and so now the distribution line is actually built behind the transmission line, which is very hard to access when there's an issue with it.
In other words, they made a mistake.
Yes, ma'am.
Is it causing an immediate problem? Is it something that we could wait on, or is it something that...
It could wait.
It could wait. Well, then I say wait.
Wait. Okay, let's take that one off the list.
I say wait.
Go ahead and do this next one. Go ahead.
This one here is only for the study. It's $60,000, and it's only for the study.
Okay.
So what we're proposing is 12, 13, $60,000. The $9 million is in the to-be program list, and we don't deal with that until we come back to you with the report.
I think that this is an important thing because, as we all know, that the machinery is getting antiquated over there, and I think we need to get a game plan as to what we're going to do. And Ken would know better than I as to what the needs are, but I think that this would, do you think it's helpful or not? I mean, obviously it would be helpful. Do you think it's needed?
We need to maintain our power supply. You know, with the new RICE regulations that are coming in, we're actually going to retire 5 engines instead of putting the money into them. That's about 14 megawatts of capacity. So we're going to have capacity from some source, either our own or go out and purchase more. And in answer to Mr. Councilman Shelley's question, the last study we did was in 2006, and we looked at new generation and our purchase power. And at that time, we entered into a 12-year contract with Progress Energy. But right behind that was putting new generation at the existing site. We've had several conversations with some of the vendors. Right now, most of these machines are all built in Europe. So with the euro down, it's a good time to be looking at it. They have the gas efficiencies, the heat rates on the engines keep coming down and down and down. And with the price in natural gas right now, if we just looked at a snapshot, it would be great to have them here. It would cut our costs considerably. And I think we've always felt that we've had the backing of not only the residents of Homestead, but the mayor and council, that they want to have some of their own generation.
I defer to Ken if he thinks we need it. To me, the study is not it's just a study, right?
Correct.
My question is then, from 2006 to 2013, what would be the differences in the studies?
We've had a lot of load growth from that time. The numbers have changed. The last time we also looked at combustion turbines, which we probably will not look at all this time because they don't fit into our load profile. And the technologies in the engines have come up quite a bit over the last couple of years, and that's mainly due to there's been so many of them put out to back up the wind farms that have been putting out west. When they put up 100 megawatts of wind, they have to put up 100 megawatts of some other type of generation to back it up. And a lot of that has been diesel generation.
Mr. Vice Mayor?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I think this is a good idea. I think that the more information we have in front of us, the better we can make the decisions, and I think this is critical in being able to make those decisions in the future. Now, one question I do have, though, goes back to the question I had earlier, and that is, as part of the study, not only is it going to look at the cost of, what the cost of new generators would cost or new power generation versus buying, but will it also do some sort of assessment of where we are currently and the repairs that would be necessary to keep our current generators operating? Because that's a lot of the concern to me too, is that we're spending all these dollars to keep these old antiquated engines alive, when if we'd instead put that money into a new generator, we'd have been better off. And so is that going to be part of the study as well?
It's not included in this part of the study.
Okay. Can it be included or added in? Okay. So to me, I think it's important. Okay.
Yes, we can do that.
Okay. All right. Sure. For me, I think it's important to get the information so that we can determine what we're going to do long term.
Great.
You okay with that?
Yes, sir.
This one here is upgrading and replacing the wire on electrical line section of Southwest 182 Ave and Southwest 328 to Southwest 312 Street to larger wire size to improve load transfer between adjacent circuits. It's a reliability issue. Current wire is too small to pick up large amounts of electrical load. Wire was installed over 20 years ago and needs to be replaced with larger wire to accommodate current electrical needs.
Mr. Conkle, have any comments?
Right now, if there's an outage in one part of that area, you can't transfer the load on that wire because it doesn't hold the ampacity. And as we've had growth throughout the city, we've put up bigger and bigger conductor all throughout the city, and this is some of the oldest that we have. There's several sections. We're going to do just this one this year in 2013.
Something that we would do in-house with our employees, or is it something?
Maybe not. We have looked at contracting it out.
Sounds like it's a needed improvement to me, so I'm in favor of it. Mr. Shaw?
Underground feeder to 2230, place existing overhead run of electrical wire underground. This is the first run of wire from the McGinn substation going out to the field for circuit number 2230, and the area is very congested, so it would be better to place the wire underground. McGinn is located on Northeast 6th Avenue south of Campbell, and this feeds approximately 600 customers in the vicinity of Northwest 2nd Avenue to Flagler Avenue and Northwest 6th Street to Maury Drive.
Comments? Is this on a critical scale of 1 to 10, where do you?
Probably about an 8. Over the last year and a half, we've had 3 fairly large outages because there's lack of clearance between several of the different feeders that come out and cross the road right there. So this would drop this one underground and take it across the road before it came up the pole on a riser.
This is an 8 place here? I'd say yes.
Okay. Next one is the underground line relocation, forced relocation of existing underground power lines due to county road widening, underground facilities to be, you know this project. And
Southwest 328th Street,
It's never going to happen. I've been sitting here waiting on a year. They've been telling me they're going to start. It has to be done for the road, correct?
Correct.
So, I mean, you know, that's no discussion needed.
General services, replace roadside assistance truck. This, how old is this truck?
The vehicle is 11 years old. 11 years.
This truck's 11 years old?
Yes, sir, and we use this vehicle when we have call-outs, when another city vehicle breaks out in the field, whether it's a solid waste truck or an electric utility truck, the mechanics actually use this vehicle to go out to the site and try to get the vehicle up and running.
I say yes.
Yes.
Exchange email server, installation of the new Exchange server. This is 6 years, 7 years old?
This server is reaching the end of its life cycle. It's 5 years old, so the hardware is going out of warranty. And in addition to that, the actual Exchange software on it is 9 years old. So we're looking to upgrade the hardware and the software. That way we have server reliability as well as be able to use the Exchange server with the new mobile phone technology.
Consensus. Okay.
Okay, yeah.
Storage area network replacement.
This is the city SAN. This device is used to hold all city data that is not literally on our AS400 system at this time. It's a critical component of the ITS department. It's reaching its end of life, and we need to replace it. Over 5 years, it's going to be 5 years old.
This is like a 9, on a scale of 1 to 10, it's...
This is a 10 or 11.
Okay.
That's how important it is.
I was just asking Vice Mayor, I like that way that you're doing that with the 1 to 10, because that gives me a better idea. So, okay, yes for me.
Lobby wall, are we going to wait until after we find out next week's report on doing any of this stuff, or is this something that you think?
We'll wait, because this will be for next year, but on the other hand, it's a different building, so this is the procurement.
Oh,
Then I say yes, if it's mold.
okay.
Plumbing, electrical, replacing mercury lamps in the warehouse with fluorescent bulbs and fixtures, changing out dual outlets to quad to accommodate the necessary use, changing out the outlets to a regular outlet for security alarm purposes. It's $10,000.
Excuse me?
It's $10,000.
Consensus?
Procurement office, this is the one I talked about. If you look at the square over there, that's the compromised position. That's where the main leaks are. So the one idea is to just do that, patch that up, or do the whole thing. So we're leaning towards, because this is coming from general fund and money is tight this year, we're liking the idea of just doing this small portion and waiting on the rest of it.
And that small portion is the 118?
No, that's, what did we come up with, $30,000?
$30,000.
Yeah.
Oh, I say yes.
Okay. Sounds like a
30,000?
necessity.
Okay, so let's trim that down to 30,000.
Yes, sir.
This one here is leaking.
What do we store in there?
I'm sorry, in the previous building or this container?
In the container.
In the container, what we put in there as items throughout the city become surplus, desks, filing cabinets, computers, any other type of electronic equipment, we use these trailers to store the equipment. The trailers we have are not insulated and they're all rusted out, so water is actually leaking in. And we had some very nice furniture that we were going to surplus and just all got ruined. Mold is actually growing on some of the equipment in there, and basically all had to be thrown away. So if we can retain the quality of the surplus equipment, we're going to get a higher dollar value when we go ahead and auction it off.
Yes.
Exercise equipment, Roscoe Warren Park. Body curls, push-ups, chin-ups, and handrails, excavate area, compact fill material, core drilling into the earth, install artificial turf.
I could have swore I saw this in all the drawings that I ever were given. Just to make a comment.
We had a discussion, Dennis and I, about this, and he says that there's a lot of people that use the, he can speak for himself, but he indicated to me that there were a lot of people that use the walking paths, and they have come and asked for this.
No, I see, if you go over by James Archer Smith Park, you see people on it all the time.
So I would
They're
vote
walking
yes
and
for
stuff,
this.
so I would give it a yes.
Next one is
We
this
already
building, you
discussed.
decide this. Next one is that, you decided this one. The restrooms, toilet sinks, repair and paint walls, repair exterior wall in the metal building.
Definite yes for me. They're bad.
FOP,
What are they at exactly? What are they-
renovate the restrooms, replace toilets and sinks, repair and paint walls, electrical, replace light bulbs, repair roof, mildew, replace and paint dry walls, replace water heater.
I'm looking at Kevin. I don't know.
He doesn't go, he doesn't know.
Well, on a
We have a contractual obligation to maintain the facility, and they're a tenant.
Well, I
and
think
it's-
if we don't maintain it in the long run, even if they move out, at some point, we would have to fix it back up. So I think it's better to do the maintenance than it is try to
Okay.
catch up.
Is that a yes? Yes? These we discussed already. FICO Williams, I wasn't clear on the solar beams for FICO Williams.
Do we need it for FICO Williams, Dennis? Do we need the solar beam? What's on a scale of 1 to 10?
on the solar beams at FICA Williams, I'd go ahead and give it a 3. We can skip that.
I'd say hold off on it.
Yeah, that answers my question.
Okay, so let's take that one off the list. We're going to come back to you on the stage.
We discussed the stage already, right?
Yep. Fingerprints. It's a biometric identity management solution that allows law enforcement agencies to determine subjects' identities in the field.
How many units does this cover? Is that one unit for $25,000?
No, I believe that's...
Nine scanning devices.
Correct. And I think the software is tied into Metro Dade PD. I think there's a little bit of software that goes with that. Correct, Scotty? And then the rest of them are for units for around about 2,500, 3,000 apiece, I
And
think.
how do they come up with 9 over whatever? What justifies 9 over 5 over 15, or they just figured out?
I think the idea behind this device makers for them to turn around and spread them between the units, like 4 per unit, to turn around and try them out, whether you're in Detective Bureau, Special Investigations, uniforms, and community policing as well, so they can turn around and get a good test on these for expansion later. So they're very quick, as you probably well know. It's just if you have the reasonable cause to turn around and fingerprint a subject out there on the scene, you can turn around and get an immediate, response on who that person actually is if you have doubt on his identity.
To me, that's a matter of safety.
I think it is, it's technology that we need to start using, or at least looking at, so.
Okay, so we'll keep it on the list then. Voice recorder.
Yeah, I think a stencil on the station where you call into dispatch and everything is recorded at that point. And we have to keep them on a retention period is overwhelmed at this point with the stencil that we have now. Obviously, by public records laws, we have to turn around and maintain these, and being able to turn around and obtain them for whether it be subpoena or public records request, and it's a replacement issue.
Yes.
Good.
Change, upgrade. This is a 2003, so it's the email software.
I don't know.
Okay.
2003, I believe, yes.
SWAT.
Quick question, though, I guess, to whomever. What, is that like a 10 on a 1 to 10 as we go through scale of things?
I say it's best judged by whoever winds up getting the call for us, but give you some quick approximate stats. Oh, the exchange?
This one's going to be funded from Impact. It's pretty much a mandatory upgrade. Okay. Just with the new technology, the changes and everything on it, that's going on with the mail servers.
What's the chance?
It also brings us up to compatibility with the city.
Okay.
It needs to stay the same.
SWAT vehicles, I know you asked for more information, stats. Do you want to leave it on the list, or are we taking it off?
What do you guys think?
The estimate, they're saying, is between 250 and 400. We programmed in 400,000. We're hoping it'll be less.
I'll leave it on the, I would like to leave it on the list, but I would also like to have some backup figures or facts, I guess.
Yeah, Vice Mayor, the SWAT team does fall under me. I can tell you that without even pulling the stats, and I will do that for you in the next couple of days, we serve about, probably about 100 responses just on search warrants a year. This doesn't include barricaded subjects and other calls where we do assist other agencies and things with it as well. And one thing on the price of this is because the SWAT van we currently have, 21 years old. It's a non-armored vehicle either. And obviously you can appreciate from being around the police department as much as you are, when you get a response with that, how bad you need a barricaded or a armored vehicle for barricaded subjects and stuff. So.
And I think in today's world, it's something we need to look at.
Yeah,
Something to look around and see, unfortunately.
I was just going to say, I think that would be a 10, would you not, Kevin?
That was what I was saying earlier. I think it all depends on when you're calling for police, how important is it to you that we can get there without being shot at, and that does happen.
And I'm not questioning what they go out there, but as we try to sell these things to the public, and, you know, they see that figure there and they say, what is that? The more facts that we have and we can say, this is what our police department does and this is why they need it.
Sure, and also, when we're at the point where we're going to purchase it, all that information will be before you vote, so we'll have all that.
Thank you.
Just this week, we had the kidnapping and we're in Miami Dade.
Telephone system, it's replacing the Cisco voice IP phone system server equipment.
That's going to be a mandatory. We have 2 telephone servers now, primary and a secondary backup. We've already in the process of upgrading the same telephone system on the command post. We need to up this one to match. And plus the hardware is getting older. It's time to replace it. And that it is our primary call service system.
Yes.
Good news, we're now up to slide 55 of 91.
Hey, but at least we're going forward. We've already discussed this one.
Good job.
Good. Traffic in-car video recorder, 5 units.
Yes.
I said yes earlier, I mean, I think that as we move along, it's a helpful tool.
License upgrade,
What, give me a definition again?
This is for Windows Server licenses that we have. We have some that are 2003 server licenses. We need to upgrade it to the newer stuff, and it also makes us compatible with the changes of Exchange and all that. The price is actually very low for the number of servers we're upgrading, but I would put it on a 1 to 10. It'd definitely be in a 9 or a 10.
Okay. Yes, for me.
Yes.
front-end loader truck. This is a 12-year-old truck. It's major mechanical problems and constant breakdowns.
1 to 10?
It's a 10.
Okay. Yes for me.
Yes, yes.
Now, this is,
Does 10 mean we automatically get it? Is that...
Thanks, mine are all 10.
They figured it out.
Give away on my secret. Yeah, I mean, yeah, but if it's costing us probably...
Yeah, this is-
What would you say the estimated loss is on something like this, and the cost to maintain it? You know, I mean, I know where I sit there at 6 o'clock at night and see somebody coming by because the truck broke down, and I guess it's probably...
Yeah, these are really way beyond their lifespan.
When Julio doesn't
Way beyond.
hesitate with an answer like that.
Okay. Yes. Anybody else?
Yes.
Side loader, this one is also 12 years old.
Brand new.
Same problem. Breakdowns, 10. Is that a 10?
Correct, yeah, that's a 10, that's a 10.
Yes
Sir.
for me.
Yes, maybe?
Oh, it's a 10. We're looking for ones now.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying.
We got a 3.
Right. Yeah, okay.
We had a 3.
All right, Julio got two yeses.
This one would be a 1. We can get rid of it if we want. Shut down the whole program. Oh, okay. So when the rating system, the problem with it is on certain service levels, it's not our decision on what is a 1 through 10. So this would be a great example of, this is not an emergency, but we have a grant requirement that we entered into, so that would be, you know.
And not the, who's responsible for the outside maintenance of these? Because I see them going around and they look like they're, after 2 or 3 years of circulating, they seem to be fading out and...
The limousine company is in charge of doing the maintenance of the equipment itself. But keep in mind that these are leased equipment that they own. Once we get the 3 new ones in December, supposedly, according to the county, that's what this money is going for. It's our share to pay for those 3 new vehicles.
Okay.
Then if we keep with the same group or we go with a new group that will run and operate our equipment, then we can be more strict as to how they keep them in terms of, maintenance per se.
Yes, no, maybe?
Yes.
I think the ridership is up on them. I see people
Yeah, it's
on them
definitely
all
up.
the time.
This is a green machine, 636HS air sweeper. It's a crucial part to ensure the city may comply with state requirements as set forth in national pollutant discharge elimination systems. Dual sweeping brushes. This baby runs at 42 horsepower.
It looks very small. This is for parks, or this is for the road?
This is for the street sweeper for the downtown area, for the sidewalks. If you see the front brushes, they also extend out, so they
Streets
can
and
do...
sidewalks?
Yes.
Beauty.
The other one broke down. It was going to cost us too much.
Okay? Yes, no, maybe?
Yes for me.
Okay, flatbed truck, 1992. Who wants to take ownership of this one?
$125,000.
Yeah, this was definitely
Oh.
An 11. No, it's, yeah, our existing flatbed trucks, the beds are rusting, and the maintenance that the fleet department is doing on them is just on a weekly basis, basically, so.
Can, as we go to sell this, if we need to sell things like this, can we get some facts from the maintenance department? Like on the garbage trucks?
We have all that data.
Or on the, you know, what the annual cost is to maintain one of these, you know?
All you have to do is say 1992.
Yeah, but I'm saying like on the garbage truck and things, you know, if we can, to me, perception and education is a thing, and if somebody in the public wants to stand up and argue with us about a $250,000 garbage truck, and we say, look, it's 12 years old, or whatever, it's costing us $40,000 a year just in maintenance fees, and we show them, you know, what the guys are doing down there at Fleet, plus whatever overtime, and I'm not saying we need to throw that in there, but, you know, that helps to sell and the perception of why we're buying things, and that's, I'm just saying, as we go forward on the budget, the more information we have, if people come here and question things, I think, you know, if it's readily available, little things like that will help us.
Keep in mind that this is for 2 trucks, not for 1, so.
And I'm going back up to the garbage trucks.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and all of these replacements have been through recommendations from the fleet department, basically.
And also, if you look at
basically-
the applications that departments supplied on each of these, they're required to answer these basic questions so that we have on the record. So why it's on the list is, and we can always drag that paperwork out anytime it's needed.
Okay.
Say yes.
Yes.
Okay, wastewater. We have another truck here. Another truck.
This was also a replacement, right?
I think we'll
This was also a replacement of let me see, this one is?
1997.
Yeah.
It's a 1997 Ford F-150 pickup truck.
I'm good on the truck.
I'm yes, but I'm moving over here.
Okay? This is the, I don't think...
This one's yours.
Yeah.
Is it where all the magic happens?
You have to, I mean, I don't think...
I don't even know what it does, but it sounds good.
This is a picture of a blower in that basically provides the oxygen for the sequence batch reactors. These are from 1998, and little by little they're reaching their end of life.
Oxygenation inhibits the bacteria to go in there and eat all the stuff. Okay, next one is water. It's a 1995 Chevy Cheyenne. Age and condition.
Same issue, yes.
Take better care of your equipment. I'm assuming it's needed, so I mean, it doesn't sound like there's a lot of choice.
95.
It's a 95.
It's an old vehicle.
It's an old vehicle.
I have a question. With all these vehicles that we are potentially replacing, can we recapture some of the funds by placing it out to auction?
Yes, ma'am. In fact, next month, we're going to be bringing a list of vehicles that we want to go out for surplus, as well as the new proposed surplus donation policy.
Okay.
Okay, yes?
Yes.
Next one is the chlorine analyzers. Replace old and outdated chlorine analyzers, which are over 15 years old, with newer ones at all injection points at the 3 treatment facilities, Woodcock, Harrisfield, Tennessee.
I feel good spending $8,000 after what you just did to me.
Okay. Yes. Okay. Next, the booster pumps. Replace old booster pump with new booster pump as the old pump fails.
These are tied to the same chlorine analyzers as well. They're all part of the same equipment.
Yes? No, maybe?
Yeah.
We need these to keep our license going, let's put it that way. So it's a 10.
Sounds like a 10.
My question on this next one is, if we've been running all these years without full capacity on the tower there, then what is the need of this now?
Well, as the east portion of the city starts growing again now, with all the new population moving there, it would be good to be able to use this tank to its full capacity, be able to fill it up at night, so that during the daytime we have 1.5 million gallons they're waiting for. It's not only for feeding the system, but also having the water in reserve for fires, and even during emergency conditions such as hurricanes, et cetera. The more we can fill up the tanks, the more water we have available for us while the power is out and we're trying to get everything running again.
Have we drawn down to a critical level over there?
Well, it's just that the tank is not being used to its full capacity.
But, okay, then what is it on a 1 through 10 is what I'm trying to get at.
This one, I would say, is probably around a 6 or 7.
On the other hand, it's only $50,000.
Let's see, that would bring your salary to... Okay, I'll leave it on there.
Yes, yes, no, maybe? Okay, thank you. Soft start motor, installation of electronic devices for the slow start of well motor. This project will be to install soft starts in the water treatment facility well motors at Woodcock Park, well number 1.
This is a 10.
Another 10.
Well, this one, what it does is our raw water wells, they turn on and off approximately, I would say probably like 50 or 60 times a day. With the high amperage that these motors work on, it's like starting a vehicle, let's say a car engine at 60 miles per hour from zero. What this does, it allows the pumps to ramp up to the speed that they need to be at, and it makes the motors last longer.
I say yes.
Next one is the extension of the water main, and this is, sorry.
No, if we get done with the department, we feel
everybody's got to stay in the same hour. Absolutely. Thank you, Village. Along Washington Avenue, this is to the existing 6-inch water main between Northeast 4th and Northeast 8th Street, and the 12-inch water main between Northeast 4th and Northeast 5th. Asbestos pipes need to be replaced, and so we're going to be doing the work as part of the Phase 2 Washington Avenue, and that's the idea, is to replace while we're in there.
I say yes.
Okay? And then these recurring projects, this is the stuff you see every year, money for sidewalk improvements, repairs. So, you know, unless you had a specific item, these are just the recurring funding that we typically do.
I say yes on the next one.
Okay.
And I expect you to find the money.
To be programmed.
I say we'll get back to you on that one. And these are all the to-be program ones, so there's really at this point, unless you had a specific one that's off the list, or a specific one where you said, absolutely go now start looking for funding. And if you weren't joking about the first one, then we could start doing that. But that's pretty much a big, long-term project.
How much, is there money out there from the federal government or state government, you know, with grants and things like that to help on this at all?
Right now, very little. There's very little out there. There used to be some funding sources that the EPA used to fund for, you know, growing cities, et cetera, for water and wastewater specifically. But right now, they really dropped those numbers down. So,
are there companies that will come in and build them and lease it back to us or anything like that? I'm just looking at this.
Well, there's always privatization that is, you know, takes place, that they will build it and run it and charge us to run it, you know.
And then the other thing which many cities do is you say, okay, well, we need $40 million, so we're going to tack on a surcharge like they mentioned in the video, and then you just pay off the bonds over time with the extra surcharge. So if you really wanted this to happen and you were amenable to that concept, we could always start crunching the numbers to look at what that would mean to the average.
For example, the existing plant was built using bonds, basically water and wastewater bonds.
You would expand there, or do you think the plant ultimately needs to be moved to a more
there's room where we're at now, there's room to do the expansion that we need to do. So space-wise, we're okay there. When you talk about moving the plant to another location,
I know you go
The numbers will
your
go up a
numbers
lot more,
times
yeah.
3 or 4.
Exactly, the numbers will go up because now you have to reconfigure your distribution and collection system to meet your geographical layout of your system is going to change. So it adds a lot more complexity to the project, but yeah, that's an option that's out there as well.
Mr. Vice Mayor, just to add, and this may be stating the obvious, but just certainly in our experience, and I think that these numbers are staggering, but no community does these kind of projects without basically issuing bonds. I mean, that's how these kind of projects, when you look at a $40 million expenditure, I mean, it's I don't know what the useful life of something like that is. I don't know, but all of these projects, whether it be a city hall, a water treatment expansion, major sewer line, all of them are all done by issuing bonds. I mean, that's so that when you look at these numbers, I know that they're just seem like how could we ever possibly have them? And I'm not advocating borrowing money. I'm just trying to tell you that nobody does this. Nobody's able to fund these kind of expenditures out of current cash flow.
So feedback or no feedback, we can move on unless somebody wants to take it off. If you would like us to explore the financing options, we're happy to do that. If you want to let it aside for a while and let it marinate.
Mr. Vice Mayor?
Yes, sir.
Just a comment on it as far as, I think it should be left on the to be programmed, and again, I think I need more information to make any type of decisions. But I think that for me, if I'm going to, at some point in time, vote to issue bonds to fund, the building of a wastewater treatment plant, I envision moving that plant someplace other than its current spot. So I just think that where it's at right now, there's some prime land there that would make much better commercial properties and probably generate more in our tax roll than if we were to leave the wastewater treatment plant in its current position. So I think that if we ever look into that fact, my position would be let's move it.
On to.
And as a priority, is this more at the top of the list or at the bottom of the list? Because we certainly have a lot of things to look at and study. So this would be a good opportunity or sometime else to just give us some direction. This is really important to us as a group, or, it's a second or a third tier type project.
As far as, I think moving it's important because I think that'll help that area. However, I don't know enough about why we need it to justify whether it's high or low. I think I need more information to know why we need a new wastewater treatment plant, what doors that will open, what that will allow us to do. Will that decrease our rates? Will that allow us to use more water? Well, I just don't have enough information to give it a scale right now.
Vice Mayor?
Yes.
Also, I think that the more we find out about the Turnpike extension and whether or not that's going to be a go or whether it's not going to be a go, and if the letter is going to hold up as far as the half of the funding, certainly that would make that property very, 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 very valuable. And I mentioned that at the last meeting when we talked about that, but so it's kind of a catch-22, but I definitely would like to leave it on
Julio, would we ever have environmental cleanup problems there on that property for somebody if they were to ever purchase it?
There shouldn't
With
be any.
chemicals or whatever?
No, there shouldn't be any. I mean, we actually take water samples there all the time as part of our permits. We have to do it, and they always come back clean. So there's really, it's just biological treatment that's going on there. So there's nothing that's contaminating the land in any way.
Thanks.
Okay. New City Hall you spoke about, you mentioned, let's see.
To me, I think the sooner, if the clerk can or whomever, the sooner we can get a meeting for that, I think the better off we all are.
Okay. Station, you mentioned, EOC, customer service lobby.
They all fall into the one.
Right. Turnpike extension, to be clear, I'm assuming you're all in favor of the extension, or you're not, or is there...
I'd like to know more about it,
Yeah,
Vice Mayor.
I'd have to have a lot more information, some guarantees of what's going to happen there for me to make a commitment on $6 million, if that's the figure.
Sure. Seminole Theater.
Go
ahead.
I'm a fan of the Seminole Theater. I don't want to hold that back. However, I don't think we have the funds to be able to refurbish it. And I believe at a meeting that we had said that we will send it out for RFP to potentially have someone to come in and bid on it and then kind of foster a public-private partnership. That's what I'm in favor of.
I agree with that.
The thing that scares me there is with the county have just opening up another cultural center in Cutler Bay is that we put this money in and we would have to continuously pump it up every year, I believe, to keep it going. So I'm a little leery of dumping that money in there right now.
Okay.
Vice Mayor, just for the record, we've talked about this for so many years, and the building of the Seminole Theater, like you say, that's just the first part. Then you've got so much to do there, and I do want a theater. I mean, I really, really want a theater. So I'm all for sending it out and seeing what kind of interest we have in that.
That's what we'll do then.
Yeah.
Mr. Vice Mayor. I agree. I think that we had that conversation, and we discussed this as part of the CRA meeting, and that was what I thought came out of it, and that was, let's put it out to RFP. Let's see if someone out there has a vision and can make this a reality for us. Can we find a way to make this work? And so I do think it would be good to see what's out there, see who's got offers, and see if there's a deal that makes sense for the city and for that particular developer. So I agree with that.
Okay. Campbell Drive, expansion from southwest 177 Avenue to southwest 187 Avenue consists of widening of the existing roadway, sidewalks, curbs, gutter, bicycle path, continuous storm drainage system, guardrail, signalization, pavement markings, signing, decorative street lighting.
To me, right
Not
now-
funded. We have no money for this.
Right. To me, right now, that is not a priority in my budgetary
I agree.
constraints that we have right now.
Take it off the list?
Okay, at least move it to the bottom.
I would take it off myself.
Okay.
Take it off?
I don't know if I'd take it off. I think I'd leave it there, but let it linger at the bottom, because
Okay.
at this point, I don't know that that's a priority compared to some of these other items.
Maybe you have like a bullpen list or and a starter list or something.
2B program 1, 2B program 2. Okay. Lucy Street.
I think we keep the conversations going.
Okay.
Would,
ADA.
would CRA be able to help us with any of that down there? Funding any of that?
Our CRA at this point, we've spent the surplus monies,
Okay.
and we're at the point where, there's very little money left at the CRA, and you're going to start seeing some tough decisions on dwindling your contributions to nonprofits, or maybe it's a lot ahead of you.
Wasn't sure where we were at on that.
The days of a lot, because you took all that money, you prioritized it, and that plan is underway, so.
Okay.
And then the ADA stuff, which we're going to have to get back to you on, because we just kind of left this on to let you know there's some ADA requirements that we're going to have to address at some point. And with that guy gets us to 91 of 91.
Okay, and the city attorney has a few comments he wants to make.
It's only an hour. He only needs an hour.
No, you said you wanted to report on something.
Vice Mayor, before we go to him, maybe I wasn't clear, are we going to be able to say anything that we want to maybe put out there for our colleagues to think about, or? I have two things. I don't know if anybody else has anything.
You can put out whatever you want, and we can think about them, and George can, I guess, figure out if we have any funding or whatever.
Just to give you all time to do your investigation and your research. Do you want me to say anything?
Yeah.
Okay. As everybody knows, I'm a bicycle fanatic, and with the bike fest that I do. So the bike lanes that were down in the southwest, I think somebody brought it up to you before. So I'm really, I don't know who brought it up to you before, but I really want to encourage that, to connect with the trailway.
The
And
bike lane, there is a CIP project on that. It is for next year, for next year.
it's for next year, well, anyway, I just want to put that out
Yeah,
there.
it's on there.
And also, Dennis brought up a really good point, and he has, I think he has a kind of extreme need for a place for storage. And if you want to talk about that just for a few seconds. If it's
When
okay
we
with the chair.
when we did the land swap with the county for the fire station land, and in our fleet and the Parks and Rec Department, we also got the BMX track. So at our, we call it the Parks Barn, we have the employees there, facility maintenance, and our equipment. So we're kind of hurting for storage for our equipment. So what we wanted to do in the BMX track was to build a storage facility there for our equipment. That's in 2014.
Just something to think about.
Anybody else? Mr. Manager?
Thank you very much for your time.
No, thank you. Thank you to you and your staff.
Very good. We've never had anything like this since I've been here for 11
I'm a
years.
little nervous, though. I saw the bridge blow up. Thank you, Mr. Attorney. Any business?
That's right.
All right, motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Okay. And just so the staff knows, I did try to let some of you go home. It wasn't my fault.